Welcome to the Ayahuasca Parents Podcast.
Hello.
Oh, hello. We were just saying that our puppy was judging us with his pointy poodle nose.
With his puppy eyes.
He's so cute. They're a lot of work. It's legit like having a 2-year-old. So today's exciting because we get to talk about ayahuasca. And I feel like, I don't know how many podcasts we've done now, like 3.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the other 3 were sort of a introduction to who we are, what we've been through, what we struggled with, sort of leading up to this time that we go to the Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked a little bit last time about how we found the ayahuasca center.
Yeah.
Which I felt like was very synchronistic.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where it was like I was very frustrated over attempting to find out, find a place that I, A, felt comfortable, B, was economical, and C, took healing seriously, and that it was practiced in an indigenous way. Yeah,
I think we were pretty close to going to that place that was going to take us to Machu Picchu, right?
No, I think it was the Swim with Dolphins place.
No.
Yeah, no, the place where they have you volunteer at like a elderly folks home, and then they take you to Machu Picchu. That's like a great place. I've never been to that place, but
there was another place that would take you to Machu Picchu, but also had a swimming pool on site and lots of weird stuff.
I don't remember that place, but that's the cool thing about when you open up, if ayahuasca is kind of calling you, or you feel like you feel very drawn to it. You just start researching and you find a place that works the very best for you.
That pulls you in.
Yeah, you really kind of fill it out. There's no other way to say it. There's a lot of people that will, there's some places in Costa Rica, there's some places in Brazil, there's some places clearly in Peru.
Kind of just depends what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of adventure you want. And
that place in Costa Rica, Rhythmia.
Yeah,
they're offering scholarships now.
Oh, see, that's so great.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about doing that, sponsoring somebody.
You gotta apply for it, and because if you don't have the means, then they'll, if you're selected, you get to go.
Yeah. See, I think that's wonderful. That place looks like a very posh, higher end place, right?
Yeah. It's more resorty, but again, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think we should judge anybody for where it is that they choose to go.
No.
Everybody has their own, feelings. Everybody's going to heal their own way. Everybody needs to see what they need to see and experience what they need to see. And when it comes to picking an ayahuasca center, sometimes it's the experience at the place, at the sanctuary. For us, it was a sanctuary. That is just as important as the actual medicine.
Yeah, well, I think our homie in Kentucky at AyaQuest, I think, showed us that.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you just need to find the match.
Yeah.
He's kind of a hillbilly kind of dude.
It's on Vice, right? And it's called Kentucky Ayahuasca.
Yeah, I think the first 2 episodes are free on YouTube if you want to kind of see what it's about. And it's probably one of the cheaper ones. It's like $400, I think, for 2 cups, 3 cups.
I think it was 2 cups. And he has his own brew that is geared towards Americans, he says.
Yeah.
I really like him. I at first, I think I got halfway through his first episode and was judging him, like mad judging him.
Well, it's not hard to do.
And then it was like, who cares? Look at the results.
Yeah, the results are awesome. So.
Yeah. And it pinged. Like I love characters like that.
Yeah.
I love people that had ridiculously sordid pasts.
Well,
and then they heal themselves with plant medicines.
Yeah.
And you can literally see the transformation. It's undeniable.
Well, what I liked about the show is they definitely gave you a variety of ailments.
Absolutely.
So from vets to people with sexual traumas, people with traumas from their parents' childhood, somebody died. I mean, just everything. And they had a really good mix, and the results were awesome. And the results were, there were the fair share that's all they needed. And then there were some that struggled and went back. So.
Yeah. And there are people that are looking at Kentucky Ayahuasca pinging going, this is what I need.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know exactly why I felt this way. Maybe because throughout my life, I've always been very much attracted and curious about indigenous cultures.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like for instance, when we went to Cancun, Mexico, when we were pregnant with our third with Jaden,
Mm-hmm.
and I really had no business going to the Chichen Itza in the condition that I was in.
Nope.
Because it was like 100 degrees and like 90% humidity.
Yeah.
I drank a gallon of water and didn't go pee.
I remember.
Yeah. And I was
Shocking.
I swolled up for like 24 hours, but it was very important that I went to Chichen Itza. I had to get there. I wanted to go there, and actually got into a fight with your mom over it.
Well, my mom's a special blessing.
But then I've always loved the Native American, the indigenous American cultures, and
Yeah.
you know, never really was into them deep though. But when the opportunity presented itself about ayahuasca, for some reason, I was just like, I've got to go to Peru, and I needed to find. It was really important for me to do it in a indigenous setting.
Yeah. Well, we found it. Mm-hmm. You know, from Howard, he had the same views. He was very into it being indigenous and unchanged.
Right, and I mean, it is still Kush. Let's be honest. We were given chairs or mats.
It's become
cushions.
cushier if you think about it. I mean, the last time I was there, I had a friggin' fan in my room.
I know. It was
And
so
a mosquito net.
I didn't have the mosquito net.
I was like, whoa, going Gucci over here.
A fan. Yeah, I know. That's Gucci.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's something very earthy and very much, you know, it's for me it was like I wanted to get out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily I wanted to challenge myself to do something that I wouldn't have ever, you know, done, and it was very much an adventure. So we get on a plane, we head to Lima, we get to Lima, we take another plane to Iquitos, Peru, where this particular sanctuary met us. Our shaman, our gringo shaman, Don Howard, met us at baggage claim.
Yep. The Iquitos airport, which is a tiny, tiny little airport.
Yeah. And we basically got walked out, baggage on a bus, loaded the bus, and then we made our way through Iquitos, which was eye-opening for someone that I had never been to a South America.
A lot of rickshaws.
Or a developing country before.
Yep.
And, you know, so we know a lot about construction. And so seeing
That's not it.
seeing how they were like building buildings and things, I'm like, oh my gosh, like how is it that people don't die daily just in this process, right?
Yeah. Doesn't seem, you know, I mean, we reinforce everything and they're just literally like cinder blocks that they made out of weird clay.
Right.
No.
Yep. We pull up to the Amazon River. We get out, we get on boats.
Yep.
Yep. And we head down a tributary of the Amazon.
Yeah.
And we dock at the Spirit Quest Sanctuary. So it was such a cool trip just getting to Spirit Quest.
Yeah, and you know where the sanctuary is at during their wet season, you know, I don't know, good third of it's underwater.
Yeah.
So they have these elevated platforms everywhere, you know, so they can continue to do business, obviously.
Ebb and flow.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, it's primitive, and there's fruit growing all over the property. There's monkeys. There's snakes. You know, snakes pretty much leave you alone. But
you have like a dining maloka. So maloka is it's a round ceremonial building with a pitched roof similar to like almost like a pyramid pitch.
Right.
But on top of a round building structure.
It's kind of the typical grass-covered roof kind of things you see.
But they're massive. And so you have your dining maloka. Then there is an ayahuasca maloka. Which, you know, I also did when I did the plant dieta. The last time that I went, that was also where we did the plant dieta ceremonies. And then there's another maloka that is specifically for wachuma, which is the cactus.
Yeah.
Also called San Pedro.
Yep.
Depending on where it's grown will depend on whether or not it's called wachuma or San Pedro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting place. You arrive. You have a short little tutorial, kind of just gives you a little bit of backdrop. You meet, he takes you to kind of the center place of the sanctuary, and then he divvies out rooms.
Yep. And so we were fortunate enough to room together. That was important that we roomed together. And you're in the jungle. And so like one of the things that was just mesmerizing to me was the noises, the sounds of the jungle. and it's loud during the day, but as the sun sets,
it's loud.
It is like a symphony of toads and
toads
bugs
that bark like dogs.
Yeah. Well, all kinds of bugs and
alarm clock.
Yeah.
Critters.
There's all kinds of critters that are running over the roof in our huts.
Yeah.
And so like our huts are basically these, I mean, it's nice. I mean, it had 2 twin beds in there. You have your own connecting bathroom with a toilet and a sink. The showers are all community showers at the end of...
Sort of. I mean, you get your own room.
No, I said the showers are all like community showers.
Yeah, it's like walking into a closet.
Right.
You say community, and I'm imagining like we're all in a room like, hey, buddy. It's...
No, Joel. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I meant like, like it's shared.
Yeah.
Yeah, not together. They're not
just,
polyamorous showers.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just showers at the end, private single showers with a door and sometimes bats.
Yeah, don't leave the door open. Bats will get in there.
I know.
Typically, you don't notice till you're naked underneath the cold water.
I know. Then you're like,
the water system is pretty much gravity fed, so it's not heated. It's just, like if you happen to take a shower first thing in the morning when the sun's coming up and it heated up the water, it's like nice. And if you're taking a shower towards, right before bedtime, it's cold as hell. I
know after each, Wachuma ceremony where it was like you came back.
Yeah.
Before you actually went into the Maloka, there was like a mad dash.
Yeah.
Because all day long, no one took showers. So that everybody knew that water was not just warm. It was hot.
Yeah.
So it was like this mad dash to get to the showers, to get a warm shower.
All the water's pulled in from the Amazon and filtered.
Yeah.
For showering. And then they bring in drinking water.
Yep.
There's like drinking coolers everywhere.
All the rooms are basically wood plank, like almost shiplap looking wood.
Yeah.
And
everything is shellacked to hell so that the bugs don't eat it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, remember that too? When the first night that we were there, because we have lights in the room, then the bugs would try and come in through the cracks, any cracks that we had. So we learned pretty quick to get tape, find someone that had tape up some of those cracks so that those beautiful beetle bugs couldn't come through, which we had a couple experiences with the beetle bugs, which was just like, you can't come into my room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, there's nothing dangerous that approached us.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's, it's pretty, it's like the jungle knows, oh, okay, those people are there doing work. So just kind of leaves you alone.
Yeah. Right.
Good job there, buddy.
Our puppy's readjusting to lay on the floor, the wood floor, not on the mat.
So we get our room and it gets started pretty easily, right? You check into your room and then he gives you, I don't know, an hour or so, and then everyone meets and he, does what Don Howard does, and he gives you this amazing intro to the plants. Right,
to ayahuasca, and it's different every time. So I've been down there 3 times. You were down there twice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same introduction.
No, I'd love that. That's why, at some point I'll go back. I'd like to hear how Parker does it.
Yeah. I bet it's amazing.
If he's channeling his inner Howard.
I bet he quotes Howard
constantly. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. There's nobody better to quote Howard.
Yeah, I agree.
And more accurately.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so we listened to the intro. We're still trying to get to know the other people. We were there with, what do you think, 30 people?
Yeah, 30 people. Mm-hmm.
And some other couples. The first time we went, it was a really good mix of men and women.
Yeah, and couples too. There was a couple couples besides us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you start with the mapacho ceremony.
Yeah, so then you eat whatever the next day. That's on the agenda. Mapacho is a ceremonial tobacco. Mm-hmm. Most indigenous cultures, they have some sort of tobacco that they work with. It's seen as very sacred. Mm-hmm. This is not tobacco that you inhale.
No.
It's not filled with a bunch of chemicals. It's literally plant material that they roll themselves in a white wrapper.
They literally cut the leaves off and dry them out.
Yeah. The idea is mapacho is considered a bridge between the human and the ayahuasca plant.
Yeah, and for me, that's exactly how it works.
Mm-hmm. I had one experience a couple experiences, I guess, where I totally felt that as well, that it was this bridge to connect with the plants. The way that a lot of people will use the mapacho is, you inhale it.
Puff it like a cigar.
Yeah, or you suck it into the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then with intention, you go.
Yep. You blow it out.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And it's very heart connecting. I felt like it was very much
for sure
connecting to my heart. My dad's a medical doctor and a cancer doctor at that. So for me, that was I was like, I don't really want to do that, but I decided that I was going to at least do the ceremony and try everything, even if it went against what I, was conditioned into believing was right and wrong. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to do it anyways. And that was a very powerful experience where, not just working with the mapacho, but then also being able to see the ayahuasca getting brewed.
Well, yeah. And helping it, getting
right.
to add the plants.
And that's something that was, unique to that first time.
Yeah.
He added other plants.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just ayahuasca and chacruna.
Yeah.
He had given me something he called the teacher plant.
He gave me something too. The second time even.
Oh, really?
Picked me out. Yeah. Gave me, told me to put in the teacher plant.
Yeah. And that's interesting because I think that when I went back this last time, I think we just added chacruna. So there wasn't like additional plants.
Yeah.
Like we had done before. And we were able to, in groups of 3, I think, walk up to the ayahuasca, kind of set an intention. That's kind of what Don Howard had said, was set an intention of, why you're here, what you wanted to work with or what you wanted to accomplish. Ceremonially, I can't say that word.
I think that's good. Ceremonially.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kind of with intention, blow the mapacho smoke into the brew.
Yeah.
And then add our plant.
Yeah. And then after that was all done, he asked us all to go off for a walk and kind of connect with nature with the mapacho, which I thought was awesome. Like both times for me, it was awesome.
Well, and it was interesting because at this point we had not listened to any of the Icaros.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I was out, next to a tree, doing the mapacho thing. And I came kind of hurried. I hurried back because I heard Icaros. I thought that they had started the Icaros without me because that's what they said that they were going to do. And so I was confused when I get back into this area that we're all sitting at. And I'm like, I sat down and I can't remember if I asked you or somebody else, like, did you hear Icaros? Were they practicing?
Yeah. It's a very magical place.
Yeah. The person looked at me and they were like, no. And
Icaros.
I was like, really?
Yeah. No, for me, mapacho became a very important part, because it's traditional it's traditional to take a puff or 2 of mapacho, right before you take your cup, or was it right after?
It's right after.
So
and basically you're paying respects to the little altar that they have that, sets up the kind of like the battery, I guess you could call it, with feminine and masculine energies. But
just talking about what it did for me, it made it's like it helped the ayahuasca kick in quicker.
That's interesting. Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
And then I'd have a couple more puffs when I'd walk back to my chair. But anyway, probably getting ahead. So
from 0 to 10, what was your anxiety or your kind of like fear level like?
For which part? Mapacho or for the first
ayahuasca,
ceremony?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. So, just backing up real quick. So, and I'll answer that question, but backing up real quick, we get together at like 4 or 5 o'clock as a group. And he kind of talks about what's going to happen in our first ceremony. And then he's basically,
the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
Just,
you don't eat a dinner before. While he's kind of doing the meeting, he has fruit out and he has limonade and, those kind of things. You're really not supposed to eat much before. So so after our initial conversation, that's when it actually kicked in. Oh God, we're going to be doing this, because right after the first meeting, he's like, "Okay, go pick your spot."
Right.
So we go pick our spots, and then it's basically like we have 4 hours to kill, 3 hours to kill.
Yeah, we're supposed to be silent. We're not really supposed to be talking to anybody. Although you and I we'd talk.
Yeah. Yeah, when you and I went, we'd talk. What I was doing when I went by myself was I'd just go up to the star deck and just puff a mapacho. But so the first time, that's when it kicked in, and yeah, I had a shitload of anxiety, big time. Like scale 1 to 10, like 10. I didn't know what to expect, And there's a lot of ceremony and a lot of tradition, and from the outside looking in, you're like, what the hell am I getting myself into? Because this is a, white dude. It's not like I've performed a lot of ceremonies in my life.
Right. It's very ceremonially driven.
Yeah. And, if you remember, so 9 o'clock comes and we're all supposed to kind of silently go take our spot. Right. They got a little bit of ceremony before where they kind of, blow some mapacho on you. It's just kind of like protecting your space. Right. And putting the rose oil on you. And, we were fairly close to the end as far as being picked when it was our turn.
Yeah,
because he started from the right side and went around.
I think I was either third or fourth last.
Yeah.
And you were on my left, so you were second or third last.
Yeah, so the anxiety was just like through the roof. What's it going to taste like? Am I going to immediately want to puke? Am I going to be able to drink it all? And
it takes a good minute and a half for everybody to walk up to the front, to get their cup of their communal cup of ayahuasca, because it's something that you just use the same cup. It's about 8 ounces. It's about 8 ounces, maybe a little bit more than 8 ounces.
Yeah.
So it's not little tiny shot glasses. You're, drinking a good volume.
No, and I mean, the since we've done it a few times, there's some fun surprises in that cup. There's plant matter that doesn't necessarily get taken out. It's just like it's grainy, and you're like, oh, good. Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah. So when it was my turn to go up, I remember I was like, my head was empty, so I had no intention, because I remember he was like, have your intention ready. I'm like, yeah, no, there's no intention here.
It's just fear.
Just fear. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. And I remember I was so worried about drinking it that I spilled. I was dripping on my shirt because I was just trying to shotgun that thing. And I remember I got back and I was like, oh, it's not bad. I mean, it's not good, but it's not bad. It's not like it invokes your gag reflex immediately. Yeah. It does the third, fourth, fifth, the more you go.
The more you drink it, definitely it has a protective quality or it basically makes you not want to drink it again. Yeah. Like it's repulsive, really. And the more you drink it, the worse it becomes. It's almost to a point where you almost can't swallow it. It's that bad.
Well, so my gag reflex, so my fear was, I would say, close to a 9 or 10. Yeah. Where was yours at?
I mean, I was fine until, so it's interesting how ayahuasca worked with me, because it wasn't necessarily during the ceremonies that I was getting all the aha moments. It was like before and definitely after integrating. I definitely had some very important, ceremonies. But the plant just worked with me different. Like I don't vision on ayahuasca, and I really haven't ever visioned on ayahuasca. That blows people away when they hear that, because that's the claim to fame with this brew, is that you have hallucinations. Mm-hmm. Not everybody hallucinates.
Right.
Probably less than half.
Sorry, that noise is our dog puppy stretching, kicking the door.
Probably less than half vision. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty fair. Or I guess you could say 50-50. But so it's like 4:30, we're picking out our spots. And then it occurs to me, and I actually thought about this in the morning, because I was going to ayahuasca to get relief from, being tortured as a child, and once and for all figuring out what I needed to see, so that I didn't, have the dysfunctional coping mechanisms and drink and things. And the word forgiveness popped up for me, and I got really angry. Like, I'm not here to forgive my mother. I don't want to think about my mother. I was very naive now that in hindsight, like,
yeah.
You think you're going to get healing without thinking about your mom? Like, she's one of the originating
Yeah, but you were thinking
points.
you were going to have to re-see trauma.
Well, so I wasn't, not yet, but you just jumped ahead for me.
Oh, sorry.
But I was thinking about forgiveness, and so I'm like putting my mat together and thinking more about forgiveness. And this is something that I was kind of pissed off that I'd even have to, like I had searched for years trying to forgive my mom. I didn't really want to be thinking about her in that space. And then it dawned on me, oh my gosh, like, am I going to have to revisit and re-see my trauma? Like, I knew that I had been tortured as a baby, slapped around, hit, neglected. I didn't know if I was going to have to see that.
It's a little different having to see it.
Well, so I walked up to Don Howard, and I'm sure I looked panicked. And I just went blah. Keep in mind, nobody really knows why I'm there. We don't really know any of the people that were around other than just superficially. And I said, Don Howard, I said, and he knew my past because I'd emailed him. But I'm like, I'm like, I'm terrified. I'm like, am I going to have to see my trauma? Like, am I going to have to be abused and watch it, And I remember he looked at me, and he looked really concerned for me. And he's like, you'll only see what you need to see. That ayahuasca doesn't re-traumatize you. Yeah. And that was a huge relief. Unbeknownst to me, I had like 8 other people that were like intensely watching this interaction between Howard and me. Yeah. And later a couple of them said it gave them great relief too, knowing that they weren't going to have to revisit past traumas.
God, that guy had a knack for saying the right thing at the right time.
Yeah. Although I have to say, this is one of the funniest experiences I think I had with Howard, which was we chose to sit on mats the first time.
Bad idea.
It was a bad idea for us.
Yeah.
But so I'm sitting on the mat, and it was, this is when Don Howard, people that have gone in the last like 4 years, they didn't get this. I think it was our group was the last group that he did this, but he was the one that would go around and bless us with the mapacho, and then do the rose oil or the rose water. It's actually water, on the third eye and on our heart. And so he gets to me and he does it. And then he grabs both my hands and he's like, are you going to be okay? No, I'm like looking at him like, dude, I'm looking to you to be okay.
Don't ask me that, asshole. Like what?
Oh, my heart. Well, that's the thing is that my heart was beating so loud. It was just, overwhelming. It was like just thump, thump, thump.
Well, this was a very different experience. He kind of modernized things a little bit after that. I don't know if it had anything to do with our group or it's just a natural progression of modernizing it a little bit, making it less
I wasn't
so secret and so.
Well, I wasn't the only. I think it was the first time really there was some legit advertising that was done for Don Howard indirectly. I wasn't the only one that caught Aubrey Marcus's podcast with his mom where they name dropped Spirit Quest. Yeah. And that's really what happened is it went from, because I have been at the sanctuary with people that, had gone like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. They were like, yeah, there was maybe 5 or 6 of us. And then it explodes to 30. Yeah. So that was a big boom. I think they realized what, that kind of that individual piece that Howard was doing was probably wearing on Howard. Yeah. And they had to sort of expedite a bit. Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah. No, totally makes sense.
Growing pains. So we go back to our room. Do you remember what we talked about for like 4 hours?
No, I mean, I remember that, our asshole neighbors were like, can you guys keep it down?
They weren't assholes. I didn't know how thin the walls were. Yeah. So, and
they put all the couples like right next to each other. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. So we were talking about forgiveness, and that's when I had this incredible aha that forgiveness isn't something I do for somebody else. It's something that I do for me. Oh yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a great perspective. I'd never thought about the fact that me not forgiving my mom doesn't hurt my mom. That hurts me within myself. Like I was creating the trauma and the drama. Yeah. And that was simultaneously like bruised my my ego and poked at my victimization programming, but also a relief when I really felt it out. I was like, I'm in control of this.
Yeah.
And, as a human who doesn't want to be in control,
Yeah.
this idea that, oh my, like this is a perspective,
Yeah.
that can help me.
Yeah. I remember that. That was, I remember our conversation was helping me become more comfortable getting ready to go into a Maloka and drink a cup of sludge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we get to our places. A lot of people are dressed in white.
Mm-hmm.
Our shaman recommended that we have a light colored top on, but not be dressed in, you don't have to be dressed in white. Just a lot of people elected to do that. I was one of those people that just
Same here.
Felt like that was what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
They spend a lot of time protecting our space and creating a sacred space.
Yeah. Which I think is important. I mean, with all the plant medicines I've ever done, minus the one in Arizona, it's really important to have
We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, it's really important to have a safe space and where you feel comfortable to allow what's about to happen.
Right. I think so too. And they did an outstanding job of really just making you feel very, very comfortable, very, very safe. And that's important when you're taking ayahuasca. The set and setting are incredibly detrimental to your experience because you cannot be under the influence of any psychedelic and not have your body safe.
Yeah.
And they take that very seriously to a point where we had compassion care people where, for instance, if we needed to go use the restroom, we'd call Banyo and someone would come in from the outside with a little flashlight, find us and then
walk us out,
walk us to the bathrooms, or we were close enough to go to our rooms.
Yeah.
So to go to our rooms, use the restroom and come back.
Yep. So should we jump to it?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say one more thing just to set the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So we had an outer circle and an inner circle because the Maloka's that big.
Yeah.
So about 30 people. The shamans sit up at the front with a little altar, and we had Don Howard, and then it was Don Robert, Donna Eliana, and Don Carlito. And am I missing anyone? No, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And they also gave us big napkins, big bunches of napkins.
Yeah.
As well as we each had a bowl full of, maybe a quarter of water.
Yeah.
And that was our purge bowl to throw up in. And tell you what, there is nothing that kind of makes your anxiety climb.
Can you get your purge bowl?
When you're looking at the scene, of like double circle individuals. We all have handfuls of napkins. It's lit by candlelight. The Maloka is, there's like an altar and legit.
The jungle noises are loud.
Yeah. There's a legit, like Alex Gray tapestries.
Yeah.
And you've got a purge bowl and you're looking around at everybody like, oh my God.
You're getting ready to do some sort of ceremony. Again, lit by candles. So you're just getting the dim light. You're basically just seeing your shaman's face. And you're just like, oh, okay. He's got an altar set up with, I don't even remember what it was set up with, but.
Yeah. And the thing that's interesting though, is that even though I make it sound really intense, you're feeling safe.
Yeah.
You feel okay.
Yeah. No, it's, there's a nervous excitement. I had a nervous excitement until, my number was getting closer.
Yeah.
And then it went to, fear. It definitely went to fear the first time.
Yeah.
But.
All right, let's jump into it. And so that was another thing too, is that because it was a minute and a half per person.
Yeah.
We're like, 28, 29 or 27, 28 people to take it. And so some of the people that had gone first started to purge before it was even our turn. We took the ayahuasca.
Yeah. I mean, with that being said, I was always, every time from that on after, I was always like, okay, I don't want to be the guy that purges first. Yeah. But anyway, so did you go first or did I go first?
Yeah, I drank it first. And honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It tasted like crazy acidic coffee.
Yeah.
And dirt.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, not
same,
so bad.
Same here. I mean, again, I didn't do the mapacho thing the first time. Mm-hmm. So took the cup, spilled a little bit on myself because I was just trying to drink it and not think about it and not drive.
Mm-hmm.
Sat down. We waited for everyone to finish. And then the ceremony starts where he blows out the candle.
Yep. So you're sitting in just complete darkness with crazy jungle noises happening.
Yeah, and it's once that you sit in complete darkness for, I don't know, a good 5 minutes, maybe 10 before the Icaros start. It's kind of like where it's allowing everybody for the medicine to kick in.
I could be wrong. We might want to fact check with Parker, but I thought that that's when Don Howard walked around the Maloka one more time, sealing the space.
Outside?
Yeah.
No, I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and so that took, 10, 15 minutes where we're all sort of sitting there. Some people are starting to purge at this point.
James.
Was it James?
Oh, yeah.
Man, I love that guy. I miss that guy.
Yeah.
And
some people had a purge that's like, it's full
like,
body.
Well, it's like roaring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it always reminds me of. And it's not like a sick throw up. It's a release, ridiculous release. Now, something for me. So one of my most traumatic experiences as a child involved around me throwing up, where I had a bladder infection that went unattended for 3 weeks. I was throwing up at school. My mom kept on coming to get me from school and pick me up because I kept on throwing up at school and throwing up on people at school. Never took me to the doctor. This one particular day, she came home. She brought me home. She just bought a new bedspread and she let me lay on the bedspread. And I remember her saying, "Whatever you do, don't throw up." Well, I was so sick. I guess I threw up in my sleep. Mm-hmm. And so I got awakened by my mom grabbing me by my hair, ragdolling me and scalding me in a bathtub. Kicked me down, after she cleaned me up, kicked me down a flight of stairs. We had this storage room with a toilet. It was complete concrete floor with it had a toilet and a wash basin, and it had a bath mat, like around the toilet. And anyways, told me that little girls that couldn't control their throw up had to sleep. Yeah, in the storage room. And I remember curling up.
It's an awful story. To
that bath mat. But what happened is that I had a legit phobia of throwing up.
Yeah.
So for some people, no big deal. We're going to purge. For me, it was like, how some people have fears of snakes or spiders.
Yeah.
That's me and throwing up. I would do anything.
So you had a legit fear that,
yeah,
what am I going to do? Yeah.
That was, I'm just, in my mind too, I had been told, or everything I'd read and listened to was, you only purge that first ceremony. So I'm like, I can do it one time. It wasn't until we got there that people were like, oh, no, you can purge constantly. You can purge every single ceremony. You can purge multiple times during the ceremony. Mm-hmm. And I think I was going into the ceremony scared about that almost more than anything else.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there. Okay.
Okay, so you had your cup, you sit down.
Yep, and then
I have my cup, yep. I sit down.
And, my heart's just beating boom, 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 boom. And it just like...
Oh, man, I think you could hear everybody's heartbeats beating.
Yeah.
Boom, boom.
I think the purging, listening to people purge probably amped up all my anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, holy crap, like I'm going to have to do this. And
it got bad, too. It was really loud. People, it sounded like they were in a lot of pain. Yeah. Some of them were like painful.
Yeah, it really did sound very, very grand.
I remember, so for me, because, I don't want to jump ahead in your story, but for me, I threw up, but it wasn't a lot on the first one.
Yeah. How much time went by, do you think, before you threw up?
Well, I believe I threw up after my experience, and I did kind of vision. So mine was after. I think mine kind of ended it.
Well, so talk about what happened with you then.
Well, so for me, like when this kicks in, a lot of people describe hearing the buzz. I call it the DMT buzz. Mm-hmm. I definitely felt the buzz. It's the zzz, and it is loud, and it just resonates through your whole body. I liken that to like your frequency or vibration raising. I've heard other people describe it as that. I don't know what it is, but that's, you definitely, you're moving to a point where you start to vibrate, mm-hmm. right? So that happened, and then I immediately start seeing Native American neon sign symbols while the buzzing's happening. And it's just bzz, bzz, and I'm seeing all these symbols, and I'm like, I remember thinking, I'm like, Native American, huh? Because you're like, I'm trying to like pay attention. I'm trying to be conscious while this is happening. And then it just stops, and I'm basically, I remember a radio from like the 20s appeared, and I saw the dial, and it was like zzz, 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 trying to tune in.
Interesting.
And that was that. That was that. And to be honest with you, I didn't really understand the significance of that until you, because you're really good at like seeing, like decoding. No, you are. So, you know, I remember thinking, okay, that was interesting. I was sitting on a mat, so I was ridiculously uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Don Howard said before, make sure you don't lay down.
Yeah. Don't fall asleep. Don't lay down.
Right. And after that experience was up, I laid down. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Like, I am so uncomfortable. I'm nauseous. I remember I threw up, and then I basically laid down until the thing was over.
Yeah. And I you know, sat back. I did not have any buzz. I still have no idea what that sounds like, any DMT buzz. And then I did close my eyes. I did see some pictures. I saw basically everybody in the Maloka as children. I saw a lion that had like Egyptian type makeup on.
Yeah.
And an incredible tree that was glowing and white. And, you know, the only thing I had to compare that to is, you know, stories from my childhood about the tree of life.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of, was like a tree of life.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened. I was in agony. I was nauseous. My body didn't feel good. Down? I did. I laid down. I mean, like, I pretty much did everything that Don Howard told us not to do.
Yeah.
I was writhing in discomfort. I knew I was struggling so hard with, in hindsight, it was, I just wouldn't surrender because I was so afraid of throwing up.
Yeah.
And I finally was in so much pain. I was like, I don't care what I've got to do. Grab my puke bowl and like, I can do this. I can do this. You know, my mom used to say things like, you know, don't ever throw up by yourself without someone watching you because you can aspirate and die. So like I had all these, you know, weird things happening.
Probably sounds insensitive for me to say this, but your mom's a special kind of piece of shit. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're still learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
The depths of that piece of shitness, but whatever. Yeah, I finally purged, and I was
This is
so.
the first time you told me that.
What?
That part.
Oh yeah, really? I've never
like,
told you that.
Way to just put anxiety in a little kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think she would have missed out on an opportunity to do that when we were children.
No, doesn't sound like it.
Anyway, so I finally purged. I felt ridiculously better, and more so than anything, I was so proud of myself. And I know that, again, that sounds ridiculous. It's like,
not really. You just did the grandma of all psychedelics.
Right. But I was so afraid to purge, and I was like, okay, I won't have to do that again.
Yeah.
So naive. But I'm like, I won't have to do that again. I got through it. I did the purge.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing it right because I was very much a control freak, had lots of control issues. Most people that have PTSD have massive control issues because we don't feel safe.
Yeah.
You know, our minds are always thinking about 10, 20 steps ahead of everybody else's minds. We're always looking at the dangers because, life was a dangerous place at least for me, from the time that I could remember, you know. And so giving up or surrendering to something like that, that word surrender, it still baffles me. And I've done, 12 cups of ayahuasca and 6 cups of wachuma. I did a plant dieta for almost a week. Like we've done peyote, we've, done psilocybins.
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle
with surrender.
with surrendering, and really what that means. Like every time I work with a psychedelic, that it morphs, that idea of surrendering and letting go and having trust.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was it. They then to end the ceremony.
Yep. He lights the candle.
Yep. And everybody goes, well, you can stay in the Maloka or you can head back to your room.
Yeah. In our case, a lot of people went outside and started talking and were disruptive to those who were still inside the Maloka. And it was kind of a good learning experience it was like not a good ceremony as far as people being.
It was really the second one, I think, that people started getting really disrespectful.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. You put a bunch of sick humans together.
We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. And inevitably we're going to create an experience inside of an experience inside of an experience, right?
Yeah.
Which is the experience.
So, exactly. So the way this place works is we go back to bed.
Yep.
We get up the next morning and they have a tradition they basically give you a ceremony first thing in the morning called your flower bath, which seals the ceremony, seals
and protects you is what we were told. Yeah.
So you go in this like little wooden hut structure kind of thing, and you're met by the ayahuasquero, Don Robert, and his wife, Donna Elion. Did I say it right?
I say Donna Eliana, but I could be wrong.
And basically she's dumping cold flower water on you while you're sitting in a chair in a swimsuit, and he's blowing mapacho on you and he's singing an icaro.
Right.
And, I loved him.
Yeah. I loved it.
Like, I don't know what to say.
Too.
I know it's weird, but like, man, I look forward to it every morning. Nothing like waking up with cold water thrown on you, you know?
Well, and it smells so good. And then you're covered in like little flower duties.
Yeah.
Like I just let the flower duties just dry on my skin and in my hair. I'm sure I looked ridiculous.
I'd throw a shirt back on and I'm like, all right, let's go have breakfast.
Yeah. It was so nice too, to be so free like that because, you know, we live in such a society where before you leave the house, you know, most people are, choosing to, you know, get their hair and their makeup done.
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing. And so it's so nice to be at a place where you can just let your hair down. Really. You don't have to do your hair. You don't have to put on makeup. Nobody cares about what you're wearing.
I wore basketball shorts and t-shirts every day.
Yeah. Nobody's there to talk about any of the outward things that are going on.
No.
You know, this is an inner work. And
everybody's kind of excited to do the flower bath. You can talk before and after, you know, what happened to you? What happened to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then you go to breakfast and then you basically, and it's not even cliquey. Like you sit at tables and every day, every meal you're sitting with somebody else and we're just sharing.
Yeah. Sharing about what people experienced or insights. And, you know, some people, did have some pretty incredible visions. Then you had the crowd of nothing happened to me.
Right.
Like almost indignant, like nothing happened.
Kind of like that brew's not strong enough for me.
Yeah. It wasn't until in our crew, it was like the second, after the second ceremony, there was this weird divide that kind of happened.
Yeah.
Where, you know, some people started to project onto Don Howard, which he gets all the time. You can, after being there multiple times, this naturally happens. Anyways, so the next thing that we did that day after we had breakfast and we all had our flower baths was we did a talking circle. Yeah.
Which, I mean, for me, don't really like talking. At the time, I didn't like talking in front of 30 people.
Yeah.
Massive anxiety for that friggin' stick to come my way.
Yeah.
You know, and for the most part, I'm like, when it comes my way, I'm going to be like, I don't have anything to say and just pass it on. But,
pass the stick.
Yeah.
And so I was also really nervous about this. I didn't really want to share with everybody everything that I had been through, although I felt like it was really, really important for me to talk.
Yeah.
And so I had lots of butterflies, also not a real big fan of public speaking. And then to talk about things that were so intimate and so personal, you know, these were things I didn't really share with people that had known me for a long time. They knew that I had a rough upbringing. That's usually how I would deliver it to people. Or, yeah, my mom, you know, beat us, you know, ha, 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 ha,
yeah.
you know.
Well, the talking circle, I thought going into it was going to be people talking about their experience.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know, but for the most part, it was people trying to set the stage on what they're here for and what they're trying to deal with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, I don't feel comfortable sharing anybody else's experiences. It's really not mine to share.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I'm going to keep all of that private.
Yeah.
But for me personally, when the stick got to me, I felt like I needed to, and we had like the stick that we'd, you know, pass around and whoever had the stick got to talk.
Yeah.
It really is like summer camp, but for adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking a psychedelic.
Injured adults.
Yeah, injured adults. That's why why we call it the sanctuary, because it was really like a sanctuary for injured human animals.
Yeah.
That were coming to lick wounds and gain more perspective and understanding about, themselves. So I pretty much just went blah.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is my experiences and this is what I've been struggling with.
Yeah, I remember being surprised how open you were.
Yeah, and I just was really honest. And then I talked a little bit about the ahas I'd had before taking ayahuasca about forgiveness and how important that perspective was for me, that was something that I could do, I didn't need her validation. I didn't need her to say she was sorry. I didn't need her to corroborate all the things that I had remembered, that I could simply just forgive, and that forgiveness was something for me, not for her.
Yeah.
And that was really important. The other thing that was an interesting side effect I had from ayahuasca was my heart went from being very, like, I'm one of those people that could always feel my heartbeat. Mm-hmm. If I concentrated, I could hear it, I could feel it. And for me, it was never an unconscious kind of subconscious, performance or but anyways, I could always hear my heartbeat. Well, after the first time I took ayahuasca, I remember constantly putting my fingers up to my pulse to try and, because I'm like, is my heart still beating?
Did you do that the second trip? I've never asked you this before. The second trip, did you do that, or was it just the first trip?
No, it was only my first cup of ayahuasca where all of a sudden I realized my heart was so much lighter physically.
Yeah.
Physically lighter.
Yeah, the funny thing is, we didn't talk about that till basically our fourth ceremony, but I was doing that the whole time too. Like, is my heart still beating?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, no, I mean, I guess it was more just a feeling. Like, I remember saying that to Howard, I think at breakfast, was like, my heart just feels so much lighter. Like, I kept on putting my fingers again up to my pulse to be
Cammy. Ayahuasca is a heart medicine.
Yeah, that's what he told me.
I can imagine.
Yeah, he told me it was a heart medicine. I'm like, well, it's doing its job. Like, found forgiveness. I'd spent 37 years trying to find fucking forgiveness. And,
Did it feel good when you told the whole group at Talking Circle your story?
It was a relief.
Yeah.
It felt like...
Because it's a purge, right? It's like a verbal purge that...
Yeah, I felt like I was had been keeping a dirty secret.
Yeah. And
I was embarrassed. I mean, that's the thing. When you're abused to the magnitude that I was abused in every way, you know how embarrassing that is?
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be embarrassed. Now the culture is like, well, that's a warrior right there. That's, you're so strong, the strength that you had to come forward. But at the time, that is not how I felt. It was like, I felt very vulnerable. I felt so naked.
Yeah.
It would have been easier for me to actually get into the circle and strip down naked than it was to be naked that way as far as my pain was concerned. So, and then what did you say there, Mr. Joel?
Well, I don't pre-write anything. So I know you enjoyed what I said.
I did.
I basically didn't know what the hell I was going to say. And really, honestly, I think the plan was to try to say as little as possible and hurry and pass the stick. Because for whatever reason, I just did not want to talk in front of a large group. But what I said was, I don't think I'm taking ayahuasca very serious. And part of that was because I didn't use a chair and I laid down and blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, but there was a sincere message. I need to start taking this more serious.
Yeah, you started it off with talking about how you thought you were here to help support me, that you're there because of me and you wanted to be there for me. I was blown away by your candor, because that's just, I mean, no offense, but at the time, very ego, both of us, very egocentric and very much like, even if, we just wanted to present this
image. We want to be the Jones.
Say again?
I don't know. Keep going.
Yeah. We just wanted to present this image of, perfection, because, that's what most of us do, is like, no, we got our shit together.
Yeah.
So for you to be so open and vulnerable like that, really and truly, Joel, I think you set the tone.
Well, yeah, I remember seeing Don Howard smile at me.
Yeah, because what you did, here you are, this big, burly man's man,
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I'm not taking it serious. And
Well, and I wasn't, because after the first cup, and again, it was a very brief kind of vision, you know, that in hindsight, it was basically, I felt like I was being tuned, right? Or my frequency was being adjusted, being found, however you want to.
You ready to tune in, Joel?
Yeah, yeah. Or that. Are you ready to tune in? But it was a massive, like, I just knew I'm connecting to something massive. Like, massive. This isn't to mess around with. Not that I would, but
Not toys.
No, but I mean, like with, again, I told this in our last episode where, I didn't really even look into the sanctuary till like 2 days before, where I had a panic attack. I basically was like, nah, I'm going to come with you, make sure you're good. And I was just looking at it like, nah, it'll be some mushrooms kind of thing. It'll be okay. It'll be a good time. Be in the jungle, but I had the feeling that, no, I'm here for me.
Right.
Yeah. So it was, and I'm glad I set the tone, because we had some partiers, we had some people that were a little loosey-goosey, and I think, hopefully it kind of helped tighten things up. So.
Yeah. Don Howard always talked about how inevitably there were people that would lie on their applications because of the popularity that Spirit Quest gained with through Aubrey Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of that kind of like UFC MMA crowd, psychonauts. So basically, people that just want to do psychedelics for the visions. It has nothing to do with any sort of healing. Which
is funny, because all the psychonauts that we know, still worked on them. They just didn't know what they were getting into.
Yeah, I know.
They're all great.
But,
all awesome
but there
humans.
were a couple of kids this first time that it became really clear really quick why they were there.
Yeah.
And there's not been a time that I have been where there hasn't been some people that have slipped through.
Same here.
Yeah. Yep. And they wanted to go to this place because Aubrey Marcus went.
Yeah.
Right. So those guys, were. Anyways, it was kind of fun though to watch their evolutionary process at the sanctuary too.
Yeah.
So the way that our sanctuary did it was 4 cups of ayahuasca, on 4 different days in 8 days.
Yep.
And so the first day we took it, then we had 1 day downtime, and then right.
No, I thought we took it 2 days in a row, and
did
then
we? Was it 1, 2 space, 3, 4? The hard thing is that Joel and I both been several times now, and he
flip-flops it sometimes.
Yeah, and it's
based
not
on
consistent.
the vibe. It's just based on the feeling.
So it doesn't matter. But anyways, you end up having, I think it was 3 and 4 was back to back, or maybe it was 2 and 3.
No, I think you're right. I think it's 3 and 4. So I think we had Bob and Sana between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So regardless, that night we had another ceremony.
Did we?
Yeah.
Or I thought it wasn't the next day, but okay.
No, there wasn't a day gap. It was back to back.
Okay. I think you're right.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the second ceremony. What was your anxiety or fear like after now doing it once? Were you more calm, less calm? Where were you at?
I was more calm, I was more serious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as I set my intention, I was serious, and I was like, bring it on. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's do this. I'm serious. I got a rocking chair. I put 2 mattresses in it, these little foam pad things.
So you could sit up.
So I was super comfortable. Yep. Had a blanket. This time I decided to do my pacho like everybody else was doing. Made sure I had my water. Like, I was ready.
You were
I was
on it.
100% ready.
Is it fair to say that you shifted from being a support to me to then wanting to be a support
100%.
for yourself?
Yep. I knew that I was there for me.
Yeah.
At that point, which is weird.
And that you needed to be there.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah. I got tricked by the universe. We'll trick them into going. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts about your story is that you're literally at Spirit Quest. You're in Iquitos, Peru. And then you realize, I'm
supposed to be here.
I need help too.
Yeah. Look at my ego telling me I'm all good.
Well, to be fair, your wife was such a shit show, and it was hard probably. I mean, like,
it's hard to notice I was a shit show too.
Well, comparing yourself to me, I mean, you really weren't. a shit show, or it didn't seem that
Everybody's
way.
a shit show in their own way. Some people
Right.
are outward and some people are inward.
That's right.
Doesn't mean you're any more or any less.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, because like when that's an interesting perspective right there. I've never thought about that before. That you were kind of an inner shit show, just like how I'm very verbal. I talk more than you do. I express myself verbally more than you do.
Yeah.
It would make sense. That's interesting. That's an interesting connection right there. Sorry, tangent, but for me, I was right before second ceremony. I was still quite nervous, a little confused why it felt like it was working differently on me than the other people that were talking.
Yeah.
I didn't really care because I was just going to be focused on the results, and I just decided to trust.
Didn't Howard tell you at one point during the day that some people's ceremony starts after?
It wasn't until after my second ceremony that he told me that, because of what started happening.
Yeah. Okay.
So do you want to talk about your second ceremony?
Yeah, mine's a little quicker. Yours is, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So for me, so I went through the whole routine, got in my chair, waited my turn. It's my turn. I got up, took the cup. Seemed like it was really full. Lit my mapacho, did my puff, got back in my chair. Same thing. DMT buzz took hold, and holy shit, this time it was like, I remember I felt it all the way down my spine. Same kind of thing. Not the same images, different images, but kind of same thing. So it's like I'm seeing neon symbols. And the buzz, it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then all of a sudden I'm in a field of wheat. Like on the Gladiator. Right. When he goes back to,
the golden glowy wheat.
Golden glowy wheat. He's going back to see his wife and son. So that's I bring that up because that's what it was like. And so I'm walking through the field of wheat, and all of a sudden it was kind of like I found a door that went into a house that's in the side of a mountain. So it's kind of like a hobbit house, and the door is like one of those, it's everything's pastel, or kind of, it's that filter where you try to make things look antique, but then the door is bright red. And then I heard the voice that was like, "You gonna go in? You dare to go in?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll go in. I don't care. I'll go in." And then some time passed, and then it was like, "Yeah, I'm not going in." And that was it. And ceremony 2 in the books.
And so did you come to once the candle was lit? Is that what happened? So that was like 5 hours for you?
That literally was 5 hours.
Yeah.
I didn't wait. It wasn't like it stopped and I looked around like, oh shit, this is going to be boring. I got to sit here for 3 hours and listen to bad Icaros. No, like I was, well, I mean,
I know what you meant.
Yeah. But, no, I mean, it was, I can sum up 4 to 5 hours, whatever it was, in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else was going on, but it was kind of like, this is why we're here. Did
you purge that second time?
Yeah.
You did?
I think I purged every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that you said that I wanted to focus on or bring to attention here is that every time that we drank the ayahuasca, the cup was filled with a different level.
Yeah.
So, and Howard kept on saying, it's not what's in the cup. It's not what's in the cup. Because our cute little conditioned minds want us to think that the more that we have, the more you're going to trip.
Right.
Right. And my experience was just the opposite.
Yeah.
It seemed like when my fourth ceremony, I'm not skipping ahead, but my fourth ceremony, I was given the least amount, maybe a quarter of a cup, and had one of the most incredible experiences in my entire life.
Yeah.
And so my first ceremony was like 3/4 of a cup. My second ceremony was maybe half of a cup. Well, no, actually, I think that's not true. I think it was my third ceremony that was half a cup. I think it was my second ceremony that was a huge full cup. Because I also had one of those moments where it was like, please stop pouring. Please stop pouring. Are you kidding me? Like, how am I going to drink all that?
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, drank it. This time it didn't taste great, but I didn't really care. I also chose to take it way more serious. So I sat in a chair with the double mats. I had my blanket, my pillow, decided to wear socks, and I was really inward at that point. That's another thing too, is that you have a lot of downtime at the sanctuary in between. So you're swinging in hammocks. You're doing a lot of staring into nothing, the beautiful clouds, or enjoying the rolling thunder and lightning storms, or watching the boats go down the Amazon.
Yeah.
And so you're literally walking deeper and deeper and deeper within yourself. And I'd brought a Kindle with me. I've always been a reader, 2-3 books a week. And my Kindle would last like 8 days typically, like when we go on vacation. My Kindle died. I still don't understand that. Literally died the first day that we got there. And so
there's weird kinds of shit like that happening.
So I had nothing to distract me as far as technology was concerned. So the only thing that I did was just, I got really comfortable with the silence and walking deeper and deeper and deeper within. So I go back to my chair after drinking ayahuasca the second time, sat down, and, ceremony started, an hour goes by, 2 hours go by, nothing. When I say nothing, like nothing. I wasn't sick to my stomach. I didn't have any pictures. I was just present, Third hour goes by, fourth hour goes by, the candle gets lit. Nothing happened for me. And I was really angry. I was so angry. And so everyone's getting up to leave. You got up and left. You looked really stunned. And I was just sitting there, like rocking back and forth, like looking at the candle. And I started thinking to myself, I should have killed myself when I had that opportunity. I should have known that ayahuasca wasn't going to work with me. I should have known that I'm an evil person. I mean, the self-deprecating thoughts, the unloving, unkind thoughts that I had going on in my head were intense. And I had this strong urge to get up and get him a mapacho. And Don Howard was still there. So, and I remember, thinking critically about him. And then I remember thinking, well, when I get the chance tomorrow, I'm going to go and I'm going to kill myself in the Amazon River. And, what a great place to go out. Ha ha ha. It was crazy. I'm like, I should go get a mapacho. And I was like, I don't, what the fuck, I'll smoke, So I go and I get a mapacho, and I sit back and I start puffing on the mapacho, and I saw the word compassion. And I got really angry because I was like, compassion for fucking what? I'm a shit show. I kind of just started going down this laundry list of things and how awful of a person I was. And all of a sudden, it was like I saw this perspective of me as if I was my child. And it was like I was seeing the replay of everything I had just said and all the things that I felt about myself from the eyes of a mom to myself. Like how I would see if one of my children were saying all these self-deprecating things about themselves.
Yeah.
And it was crazy the amount of compassion all of a sudden I was building for myself, and so quickly. And I just started to cry. I got closer and closer to this candle. And in fact, there were some people that had left their mats, close to the altar, close to where the candle was. And I scooched my way over onto somebody else's mat. And I just laid down and I just wept. I cried and purged through tears. And it was such a remarkable, release. And to see how all of my thoughts, all these self-deprecating, ridiculously hateful thoughts about myself, I realized that this was a big reason, one of the biggest causes of my suffering was my inner chatter.
Yeah.
That I had never been aware of. But the thing is when you're an abused child, your mom is constantly, at least for me, my mom was constantly telling us basically what a piece of shit we were.
Yeah.
Either through nonverbal communication or verbal communication, emotional communication, withholding love, withholding, physical touch. And when we did get touched, it was in a violent way.
Yeah.
You learn through that imprint to say those, to continue to abuse yourself that way. And I realized I was abusing myself, that my mom may have stopped slapping me around when I was 12 and may have stopped, emotionally and verbally abusing me when I was like 18, but that I had taken the torch and, or
kept it going.
the baton and kept it going myself. And so like, so everybody's asleep at this point. I think there was only like one other person that was really around, but that was the beginning of me realizing that my ceremonies started when everybody else's ended, so, so it was like, I sat there for, 4.5, 5 hours.
I remember you're like, is it trying to teach me patience?
Yep. I think it totally was. It was like, I'd sit there for 4.5, 5 hours.
Yeah.
And then my ceremony would start as everybody's was winding down.
Yeah.
I did try and push Don Howard one time because I really wanted to know why this was happening, why it didn't seem like this was happening for anybody else. He did make a comment at one point this last time I was there about how, sometimes some people have a really hard time letting go. And here I had thought I'd done all this like ego work, and I thought I had done like all this work on learning how to surrender, and realizing that probably played a big part of it was I struggled for 4.5, almost 5 hours, just trying to get to a place where I could relax and not try to control everything,
Yeah. Which I think you're so much better at that now.
I don't know. We'll see.
No, you are.
We'll see.
You're so much better at that now.
Yeah. It takes, I have some self-talk now that I do where, it's like, I almost force myself to think about worst case scenario. And then it's like, okay, well, now that I've thought about worst case scenario, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to let it go. Whatever it is that's happening, So after that second ceremony, I pretty much got everything I wanted to get. I mean, truly. I mean, I learned in 2 short days about forgiveness and compassion.
Yeah.
And I realized that everything originated from within myself, that my reality was, my reality was a reflection of what was happening within myself.
Yeah.
And I learned about forgiveness for the self, that you can't offer anybody anything that you don't offer yourself first. So forgiveness for self. And that wasn't being selfish. That was being selfless towards the self. And that you can't serve anybody. You're not fit to serve until you're, fit to serve yourself.
Wasn't your intention before ceremony 2 grace?
No,
Wasn't that when you were trying to figure out what the word grace meant?
No, that was my third ceremony.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. My second ceremony, I don't think the first ceremony definitely was forgiveness. And then the second ceremony definitely had a lot to do with compassion and unconditional love for self. And there's multiple layers throughout the years. It's like those were foundational lessons, little platforms to springboard off of as I unfold my proverbial onion and just, continue to have a deeper understanding almost daily of, what forgiveness and compassion and unconditional love and acceptance is.
Yeah.
Okay. So third ceremony, this is where it gets fucking legit, Joel. like, correct me if I'm...
Well, for me, in between second and third.
Okay. So, yeah.
And this is how I know for sure that we did Bob and Sana between the two.
Okay, because I was thinking that was...
Because I was made to sit with it.
Okay, yeah. So go.
So same next day, do the flower bath, all that good stuff. We went and, had our breakfast. And then you and I decided to go get hammocks. Mm-hmm. And, I think I put headphones on and I was just listening to music. And, time went by and it's time for lunch. Well, while I'm laying in the hammock, the leaves on top of the
thatched roof.
Yeah, started blowing in the wind, and it was making the same rhythm, at least in my head. That they do in the... So whenever they sing in Icaro, they slap these chacrunas.
It's a chacapa.
Chacapa, okay.
And it literally is a shamanic tool, and it sounds like this.
Right.
And it holds the beat for the Icaros.
So that's what I could hear. And I basically, I think, went into some sort of trance, or the thing is when you do ayahuasca 2 days in a row, don't be silly and think that you're 100% sober the next day. Like it's, these things are still in you. There's an after effect. So I'm laying there, I'm hearing the ch-ch-ch-ch-ch, and all of a sudden I am taken somewhere. I'm taken to a bedroom, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Right? So I'm taken to a bedroom, and all of a sudden I recognize the bedroom and I recognize the space. I'm at my grandma's house. Mm-hmm. I'm about 5 years old. My mom's staying at my grandma's house because she's pregnant with twins and she's stuck in bed. And I could, this is the part where it gets interesting because I'm seeing the room, and I can smell the room, and I can do all these things. And I remember you tried to say, hey, it's time for lunch. And I'm like, hang on. I just basically shooed you away because like I needed to see what I was about to see. I didn't really see anything, but it became very, very, very clear that my uncle, who I think was like, I don't know, 7, 8 years older than me. So he's like 12, 14, something like that. Molested me. And like, it was clear as day. I knew what happened. And that was something that that was never on my radar. Like I always kind of thought that maybe somebody got into me sexually because I was over sexualized and, having thoughts of, trying to have sex when I'm like 12, so weird things like that I could look back as an adult going, that's not normal. Yeah. So, I was instantly enraged.
Well, and there was another piece to this too. Ayahuasca also said to you that your mom knew.
Well, not then. No.
Oh, I thought it was there.
No.
Because
no.
You turned around and you told me, and then you're like, and my mom knew.
Did I?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that could totally be.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in the ceremony too, but yeah, I mean, now that you mentioned that, I think I said that to you. So we're going back to the dining Maloka to have lunch, and I saw Don Howard and I grabbed him, and I was like,
this has happened.
What the fuck is this? I'm like, I just saw this. Is that real? He's like, yeah. He's like, ayahuasca's continually working on you, and maybe it felt like it was safer to show you this in a daytime. I'm like, awesome. And just as the day went on, I was more angry and more angry. And our talking circles were late in the afternoon.
Right.
So I remember we had the talking circle, and I basically grabbed the stick, and I was like, I just found out that my uncle molested me, and now I want to fucking kill him.
Right.
Next.
Yeah, I think you really did it like that too.
Yeah.
Then you like pass the stick and everyone's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was so mad.
Now, I want to just point out too that when I met Joel, his mom randomly brought up we now know it was a made up story about you being molested, and had told like your sisters a different story as well. And when I had come to you and said, well, this is her account, this is what she said. And you're like, that never happened. I don't even know where you got that from.
I mean, like the thing is when it came to being sexually traumatized in any sort of way, I had no memories at all. When I was in talk therapy, sometimes we would try to figure out, was it the babysitter? Was it this guy? Was it that,
Right.
I had memories of someone being violent, not being sexual. So that wasn't, my mom was just full of shit.
So the revelation that it was your mom's brother, and he happened to be living at the same house,
right,
that you were living in because your mom was pregnant with the twins.
And my grandma had, air conditioner. It was a hot summer, and my dad was working like 2 jobs. So
yeah, and I remember how angry you were because I remember we were supposed to do Bob and Sana that night.
Yeah.
And I remember us having a conversation where you were like, I want to go.
Yeah.
Like you wanted to bolt. And I didn't blame you at all because this was super traumatic. And honestly, it was like so off the radar. Like I wasn't expecting it. You weren't expecting it.
No, I didn't see that.
And it was like, well, fuck. Well, how do we deal with this load of shit that just got
Yeah, and I remember
dumped?
you or someone else was like, just take Bob and Sana. It's going to make you full of love. I'm like, full of fucking love. After what I just saw in my head, full of love.
Right.
But
and you were really, really, really concerned that if you took another cup of ayahuasca, they were going to make you see what he did to you.
I was terrified.
Yeah. And I think terrified is a really good description.
Terrified.
And you were literally terrified all that day, all that
and
night.
I had one more day.
I know, all the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awful to watch you. But from an outsider looking in, what I saw in that 24-hour period was you literally walking so deep within you. Like it was almost like, and we didn't spend a lot of time together at that point. It was like
No, I had to be by myself.
You were like in your own reality, right?
Yep.
Oh, I get emotional thinking about it because I just want to go back and give you a hug.
I know. I remember it was bad.
Yeah.
I wanted to. Let's just say it was really good. I was stuck in the middle of the Amazon jungle without a way to get to wherever my asshole uncle was.
Right.
You know, but so later that day we did Bobansana, which is an interesting ceremony. It's a flower. They make a tincture out of it.
You say it's very heart opening.
Which I felt like it was.
Yeah, it's a tincture made out of alcohol. So, or, Bobansana, they use alcohol to extract it from.
Right.
Yeah.
I know you had a problem with that.
Well, I was nervous about it because at the time I had labeled myself an alcoholic and I had an addictive personality. I was nervous about taking it, but I had promised myself that I was going to
do whatever came up.
Yep, do whatever came up, and it did have a very much of a kind of like a, you did feel very tipsy.
Yeah.
And there was a little dance party that ensued with some of the people.
Yeah.
What's funny is throughout the years watching people take Bobansana, the people that struggle the most, or the ones with the most ego, it almost shuts them down in Bobansana. Like I watched them, almost like become very reclusive. Or anyone that had a lot of hate coming to the sanctuary, they become almost like really reserved and they don't want to be around anybody.
Yeah.
And then you've got like the shy crowd that like comes out of their
It just opens up. And
I can't tell you, every single time I've been there, I've had at least one person walk up to me and grab me and pick me up and almost shake me, shake me. It's the funniest thing. It's the most reserved ones. It's like they're just like their hearts just boom.
Yeah. I remember the second time I went and I had people coming up to hug me where I was like, yeah, like 20 minutes ago, I didn't fucking like you. What are you doing? And you just go with it, right? But because there's people that rub you the wrong way, as life.
It's just life.
Yeah, but I remember one guy in particular. I was just like, really, you're gonna come up and hug me?
But that's my point. Is that it alters some people's hearts and their personalities and But for me, it made me really sleepy. So we didn't do the dance party up at the star deck.
No, we went to bed.
Yeah, you and I went to bed. And I didn't have any dreams, did you?
Not that I can remember.
I don't remember any either.
Yeah, I know he was describing as you'd have vivid dreams and blah, blah, blah. But no, I mean, I think I was fighting with hate at that time anyways. So I think it gave me a little bit of relief. And the next day I was right back to the hate. Mm-hmm.
So talk about that. Talk about your leading up to and your third ceremony.
Well, this is the longest day of my life, It was just longest, just walking around, pacing, trying to distract myself. A couple times I remember trying to kind of doze off and recreate what happened the day before. It didn't really work. Just wanting to fucking kill somebody,
Yeah. In hindsight, I feel kind of bad that I feel like I wasn't really there for you.
I don't think anybody should have been around me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel bad. I was, I don't really know another time where I wanted to physically kill somebody. I keep saying that word because that's literally how I felt.
I think you have every right to feel that way when you find out that somebody has damaged you like that was supposed to be a trust figure.
Well, and it all lined up too. Like it all lined up and I remember I asked Don Howard, I'm like, is ayahuasca lie? No. No, he goes, if it's coming up and if that time period makes sense, that's just your mind finally letting go.
Maybe side note is a good time to talk about some of the allergies that you had because this sort of coincides with this.
Well,
deathly allergic to poultry, allergic
shellfish, really, grasses.
Yeah, I think you talked about this the last podcast a bit that when you were about 5, it was right after Thanksgiving. You went running and jogging with your dad.
I talked about this in the podcast that we
decided not
deleted
to
because I cleared my throat for 2 hours.
Whatever. Okay, well then talk about the allergies that you've had since.
Yeah, I mean, I just it's probably jumping the gun. Let's talk about third ceremony and then talk about the allergies because I think that'll. Okay. Because I think the ahas help with the backstory.
Okay, cool.
You know, so it's time for ceremony 3. I'm just fucking livid. Livid. I remember I'm sitting there, I'm just stewing. Don Howard comes up. Fuck, I just get emotional thinking about it. He comes up, he grabs me by the shoulders, he puts the, you know, the rose stuff on my chest, on my heart, and my head, and he goes, it's all about the heart, brother. It's all about the heart. Oh shit. And I just felt calm. Yeah. Just like that. I just felt calm. I was like, I love you, Don Howard. You know? Yeah. So, get up, drink the cup. Of course, it's like overflowing. Like, really, dude? Like, this is the one you fill full blast, you know? Because that's symbolic for me.
And what does Howard do every time he hands you the cup?
Smiles.
I know. Mm-hmm. The audacity.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, I'm probably going to have one of the worst experiences of my life, and you just handed me a full cup. Awesome. Okay. So, you know, do you want me to just get into it?
Let's just go.
So, you know, I smoked a mapacho. Second they blow the candle out, I'm the first one to puke. Violent puking. The sweats, the shakes. Like, I am puking from the depths of my soul. Like, it's just bad. And then I could feel myself struggling against something. You know, nothing had really, wasn't seeing anything yet. It was just like, I'm fighting something. Don't really know what I'm fighting. So at this point, I'm like, baño, let's take me to the baño. You know, that'll give me some relief going to the bathroom. I swear I shit out snakes, but I remember heading back from the baño, and I'm like, this needs to stop. This needs to stop. Go get Howard. This needs to stop. You know, the dude that was helping me was like, he goes into the Maloka, he comes back. He's like, Howard can't come. I'm like, what? He helped everybody else. Like, really? And I just like, I'm not going to do this. He's like, let's go inside. I'm not going to do this. He's like kind of tugging on my wrist. I go sit back down. I puke some more. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck ayahuasca. I'm going to take a nap. So I remember I got cozy in my chair and I'm just like, nope, not going to do it. I'm going to go to sleep. Not going to do it. And then...
cute little human.
Yeah, cute little human. What I can only describe as this electrical current shot up my spine and made me sit up straight like an antenna. Mm. And it's funny because, you know, like, you know, we're antennas. So it sat me up straight like an antenna and was like, you're doing this now. And I'm like, fine. So first, before I started doing that, I think I started fighting it. And so what I would say is all of a sudden, when I close my eyes, I'm in an evil carnival where everything is evil looking. And it was terrifying. Mm. I'm running from something, running. Every time I'd come to, I think I went baño 2-3 times, you know, just trying to get out of the Maloka, get some fresh air. It was not going away. It was like, you know, it's the first time I understood what surrender is. Mm-hmm. Because I was fighting it, and it became clear what had to happen. So go back in. I'm back in the evil carnival. At some point, I surrendered, because when I surrendered, I was immediately taken back to my uncle's room. I'm like, oh fuck, what are we gonna see here? Oh, this is not good, you know. And it's like, I'm just looking around. It's like I was there. I could smell it. I could see it. I could feel it. You know. Mm-hmm. Didn't see anything that happened. Saw glimpses of him as a kid, you know. I do remember basically it was like, and your mom knows, you know, but I could be confusing that. That could definitely be the day before. But, you know, I had that your mom knows kind of thing. What was interesting is I think after I finally surrendered, next thing you know, I'm back in that field. Mm. And there's the little me with the bowl cut. I'm wearing like a little soccer uniform. I got like blonde hair. And, you know, it's funny because at the time, so many people talk about sitting with their little me. Yeah. I wasn't aware of that, but I literally sat with the little me. And I don't think I've ever cried a deeper cry, ever. Like, it was awful. I remember I just like put my legs up and just kind of cuddled myself and just bawled.
I know. I wanted so badly to like
That's bad.
comfort you because my perspective while I was sitting there was you were throwing up all the time, and you had gone baño a couple of times. So I'm thinking, oh my God, like he's got the shits and the pukes.
Yeah.
And then you just started to cry. And, you know, in the ceremony, we're not supposed to comfort anybody. We're not supposed to touch anybody. And I'm such a caretaker.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard to listen to you weep.
Well, like when I think about it, it's awful. You know, I just kept apologizing to myself.
Oh, Joel.
Sorry, man.
No.
Sorry I couldn't take care of you. You know, it was bad.
But it was really healing at the end, it sounds like.
It was amazing. Yeah. So he lights the candle.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump ahead real quick.
Cool.
So he lights the candle. Now that I've cleared my throat.
Yeah.
Lights the candle, and I look over at you, and you're on your hands and knees. And I'm like, because I was just a hair behind you. Well, you were on somebody else's mat, or you stepped forward or something, and you're just trying to.
Well, I turned around and I looked at you.
Yeah.
You looked at me. Then you got up and left.
All I can say is I had something said, go back to your room now.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you on your hands and knees in pain.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to go now. So now it's your turn.
Yeah. I'm like trying not to weep right now. Like, oh
yeah. Because I feel like an asshole, you know, in hindsight. I'm like, what do you mean you left? She was like, all I can tell you is
it was so important that you had left.
Yeah.
I can't, and that when you left, because you left, or I looked back at you and then I, you know, was doing my thing. And then I looked back again, you were gone. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that was like, oh no, like I have to do this on my own. So, you know, I had just determined that things weren't going to be, like anything I had read or that anybody else at the sanctuary, that things weren't going to happen for me like they were happening for other people. I quickly wrapped my head around that. After the second ceremony was like, I'm just going to be present. I can't believe I had the awareness to even think that. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, you know, it's like, oh, you know, being as naive as I was, that probably was helping to contribute to this idea that I could actually be present, but whatever. I just decided to go with the flow and not judge the experience, because I'd had such incredible healing, you know, from everything from the Mapacho ceremony to the 2 ayahuasca ceremonies to, you know, the Bobansana. And I was realizing that the experience in and of itself was almost like taking a psychedelic. You know, I was starting to kind of cue in that it wasn't just about what was happening in the Maloka. It was what was happening the entire time we were there.
Yeah.
So had no expectations, or at least I don't feel like I had any expectations. And one of the things that just kept on coming up was this word grace. Now, I was raised religious, but not Catholic. That's a Catholic word, grace. And I didn't really know what it was. Remember, we were trying to connect to the Wi-Fi, like by the dining Maloka.
Yeah.
After talking to the kids for a minute. And then I was like trying to Google what grace was.
Yeah.
And finally I was just like, well, whatever. I don't know what it is. So I don't know why that word keeps on coming up, but we'll just let it be. And just like the second ceremony, I sat there and, you know, the entire ceremony is basically going by and I'm lucid. Like I can open my eyes, I can look around, you know, it's as if, you know, I didn't take any ayahuasca. Mm-hmm. And about right as he was at the end of the ceremony, our shaman goes around and he blesses everybody individually with the chacapa. Again, he bops it over your head, chick, 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 like that. And then they blow mapacho to seal you for the night before they light the candle. And so he was basically going around. He started going around doing that with everyone. And all of a sudden, ayahuasca told me I had to throw up snakes. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like that would be my worst nightmare right there. A, throwing up. B, to throw up snakes. And ayahuasca was like, nope, there's 3. And I could feel 3 snakes inside of me. At that point, you know, your logical mind starts to get involved. It's like I'm under, you know, the biggest psychedelic on the planet. this is just a hallucination. I don't really have snakes. Ayahuasca's like, no, in fact, you need to drink the rest of the water in your water bottle because there's nothing for them to swim around in your stomach.
Oh my God.
And I'm like panicking at this point. I'm like, like I'm hyperventilating and I'm just trying to keep my shit together. I'm like, okay, no, I can do this. I can throw up snakes, So like, I'm then trying to like force it. I want so badly, at this point, my ego's involved. I want so badly to be finished with my experience as like everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I think I sat up in my chair so I could be blessed. They turn they light the candle. And at this point I'm hovering over my puke bowl, terrified and literally having a panic attack. And one of the women that was in front of me, she turns around, she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I have to throw up snakes. And she laughs, kind of nonchalantly, like, ha ha ha, everybody has to do that. And I'm thinking, bitch, you don't know that this is like I'm like, literally, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And this point, I think it's when I look back at you and look back again, you were gone. And I can't remember her name, but she's like, I'm going to go get Don Howard. And I'm thinking, don't embarrass me like that. And so he comes up and he's like, what's going on? And I said, I have to throw up snakes. And at this point I'm like, and he was telling me that, to basically relax, that this isn't something that you force. He goes, it's a release. That's what he kept on saying. This is a release. And, this felt very real to me. And this idea that I had to throw up snakes was just continuing to compound. Mm-hmm. Don Howard ended up doing some energy work on me where he basically stroked my spine and up through my spine, up through my neck and into my head. And I literally felt light come up through my spine, through my neck area, out my, now I know my crown. And I have a friend who was sitting right next to me who had stayed to, I guess, watch the shit show that Cammie was unfold. And she said to me after the fact, she's like, you could literally see the light that was working. She goes, it was the most beautiful energy work I've ever seen anybody do on anybody before. And I could feel that. And at one point, and I don't know how many minutes went by, or I don't know how long it was, but at one point Howard grabbed my shoulder and he goes, Cammie, he goes, once you do this, you'll never have to do it again.
Yeah.
And I immediately knew at that point he was talking about purging my abuse.
Oh.
And I was like so excited,
Yeah.
But I couldn't force myself to purge. And I was getting really frustrated. And I was really afraid to throw up, let alone snakes. And so then some time went by and he was like, you've done such a great job this far. You should be really proud of yourself. And I took that as I was being let off the hook, So I went to sit up, because I was leaning over my purge bowl. I went to sit up straight. And it was literally like my hands went slamming back down next to my purge bowl. And ayahuasca bowed me to my bowl. I was not in control of my body. I don't know what else to say. And she said, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this now. And as I was bowed to my bowl and inhaled to purge the biggest fucking raw purge that I've ever done before, she said, and I've never ever told anybody other than you this is penance for your crimes against humanity. And then
I'm assuming she's talking about a past life or something. Like,
still have no idea what that was, but I remember thinking, fuck, that's intense.
Yeah, what did I do?
Okay, I made some pretty bad human mistakes, but penance for crimes against humanity. And then I mean, I'd never experienced a purge like that. That was like an opening up, where and whether it was in my mind or a hallucination or whatever, it was I heard in my purge bowl, plink, plink, plink. There was a boom, boom, boom. And then I looked up at Don Howard, who was laughing because he liked to do that when you had a breakthrough, because it was not like a, ha pointing, laughing at you, but like a well done,
proud.
And I remember sucking in some air because I had purged for a long time. and doing it again and just purging the most ridiculous purge that friends of ours said that they could hear on the other side of the sanctuary. And and then I closed my eyes and I saw patterns. I mean, I got really distracted because of the swirling patterns I saw. It was just like sparkly. It was like tinsel and the intricate details and the swirling. It made me really sick, actually, to my stomach. And at that point, I just wanted to go back to my room. And I got back to our room, and you were asleep or in bed, and I remember sitting on. It was the first time, the entire time that we were there, I didn't feel safe. I felt like I had opened up something inside of my brain, and it was big, and I knew it was big, and I didn't know what it was, and I was a little paranoid. Felt like like something was outside the room, or other things were outside the room. And I remember sitting on the edge of the bed until the rooster started to crow, until I felt safe to go to bed. And one of the things is that this is just my own interpretation of ayahuasca, is that it's a nocturnal plant. And for me, it worked. It would work sometimes all night long. All my lessons are usually at night. By the moment that the roosters would start to crow and you got an inkling of the sun coming up, ayahuasca would start to fade with me. And it was almost like that, the sunlight was its kryptonite. Yeah. I've heard of people taking ayahuasca during the day, so I don't know if that's really true or not, but that was my feeling for me. It's always worked, that way. That was simultaneously one of the most terrifying experiences I'd ever had, and one of the most healing experiences that I'd ever had. And I woke up that next morning thinking to myself, I will never be the same person. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting with ayahuasca, because I always tell people it unfolds in chapters.
Oh yeah, big time.
And it seems like chapter 3 is a good one.
It seems like, if you remember right, we sat down in the Maloka that night, and it was palpable, the reverberation,
oh man, it was, the energy was.
None of us had taken ayahuasca yet, and I think all of us could hear the.
That happens. It was for all I know, it was like some sort of full moon or something too.
I think everyone got smacked around that night.
They did.
I think we all got. Well,
I remember hearing people's accounts, but like I was all in my own shit.
Right.
I remember our Kiwi buddy telling me about, I think he encountered his dad with masks or something, but.
Yeah, he had a wicked purge. In fact, we were purging in synchronicity that night. Yeah. There was a lot of after the candle was lit purging happening. Yeah. And there was a huge division with the crew. It was like the ones that were sort of the psychonauts became pretty prevalent at that point, because they were convinced at this point that there was something wrong with the brew.
Yeah, there was a group of people that had no experience whatsoever to that point, while we're all getting our asses handed to us.
Yeah, and which we see quite a. I mean, this always happens with some people, but the thing is that the results seem to be pretty consistent with everybody, regardless of if you have any experiences or you don't. Right,
you're learning something with no vision.
Absolutely.
And these particular people, best described as psychonauts, because a lot of them were there for the visions.
Look, and if you're a psychonaut, I mean, more power to you. Go.
I get it. I get it.
That's what you want to do. I mean,
I've had some cool experiences that are just, I wouldn't say there was anything that was obviously healing about the experiences, but they were pretty. Mm-hmm. So I get it.
That's how I feel about Vilka. Yeah. That's a whole other. Yeah.
That's another podcast.
But I mean, that's how I feel. I don't like it because for me, I've seen no medicinal results from it. It just seems to be a lot of swirling, for me, I don't know. I don't care so much about the visions. I get you. But.
Well, so that happens. Ceremony 3. We wake up, and I don't know about you, but that was one of the best flower baths I'd ever had. Yeah. Felt like I accomplished something. Felt
significantly lighter.
Oh my God. Yeah. And the funny thing is somewhere mid-morning, mid-afternoon, I was like, I think I failed. I had these thoughts that I failed because I didn't see what happened to me.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so I basically spent the whole day trying to be okay with just trying to surrender in advance. And that's fine. I can see what happened. That's okay. Bring it on. I can see what happened. I'm brave enough, you know?
Yeah, you did. You spent 24 hours going, no, I can do this.
Yeah. And there was no bullshit. It wasn't like I don't think it was like I was just pretending. I think I literally had surrendered during the day, you know? So when, you know, we had our talking circle, and, I don't even remember what I said, the third talking circle.
I don't think we said much because if you remember right, again, there was a good 5-6 people that were angry. They started.
We had a talking circle, right?
No, we did, but we had some people that were angry that we were having experiences and that they weren't having experiences.
Yeah.
And there was this weird kind of division that was starting to happen.
Yeah.
And I think for some of us, we were like, I'm going to keep some of this to myself. Cause I know I kept a little bit of it to myself and didn't tell everybody exactly everything that had happened because, you know, I just didn't want to.
Because the vibe was off, to be honest.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. There was like this weird like division.
Well, so skip ahead. It's time for ceremony 4. I remember I was just dumb. I was like, okay, I'm good.
Well, and I have to give you props here because there's nothing like having a ceremony where you do nothing but puke and shit and cry, and you were like envision hell, like
I can't tell you how terrifying that evil carnival ride was.
Like, I've watched so many people going back where they just choose not to do ayahuasca again. They're like, nope, I'm good. Like I don't need to do that 4th cup. And you just were like, nope, I'm doing it. Like I'm going to finish this out. I mean, the bravery, the courage. Well, I mean, it really gives me like, cause I'm headed back to the Amazon in February, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around the courage part. And that's what I think about. I'm like, no, like I can do this. Like Joel did this. I can do this. I can I can figure out how to have the courage.
That's funny because I always use you for courage too.
Thanks, babe.
Well, my wife always goes first, and she's still alive. No, but you know the thing is if plants are our healing modality, then finish. Nothing. You need to finish it, and it's like that's just a feeling I've always had. Right? There's 4 ceremonies for a reason. You know, you need to finish it. You're going back in February at a great place. You know, it's not Spirit Quest. It's a different place, but you know, it's, and everything's working out just synchronistically. Everything's lining up the way it's supposed to line up. And, you know, you're going to be brave enough. You're going to, this ceremony is for you too, not just for our daughter, and you're going to get what you need.
Yeah. I think about, you know, the opportunities in life where we really get to challenge ourselves through fear. Yeah. Consciously, you know, because there was a lot of fears that I had to traverse when I was a child that weren't something that, you know, I feel like I chose, depending on what perspective you want to look at it from what perspective you want to look at that from. But I feel like that that's the coolest thing about ayahuasca is the opportunity it gives you to confront in modern times some legit fear and
for sure,
and to work your way through it. And you get done doing 4 cups of ayahuasca and you go back into modern life. Well, what the fuck can't you do in modern life? Yeah. Because of what you just challenged yourself to do in the jungle. Yeah. So a lot of the times when people ask me, well, why did you go to Peru? You don't have to go to Peru. I remember so many snarky people. You don't have to go to Peru to take ayahuasca. And it's like, yeah, you don't, but I like it because it's the whole experience of going to Peru challenges you, a modern human with modern conveniences, in a way that you don't typically get to live. You don't usually get to live like that. And
no. It's just never do you feel more supported by a group of strangers. Yeah. And when you're all end up in the same place with the same goals and you're all going to do the same thing. Yeah. And it's awesome.
So let's talk about our 4th ceremony, but my ceremony sort of plays into what happens with you as well when we get back to the room. So how do you want to go about doing this? You want to talk about what happened to you in the Maloka, and then I'll talk about yeah, and then we'll just kind of go back and forth.
So I've just, I had made up in my mind that I didn't finish from ceremony 3 because in my mind, I have to see what happened to me.
Right.
So, it's so funny sometimes when you take, ayahuasca or any other psychedelic, there is this inner chatter with something that doesn't feel like it's you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is.
Well, it's not you. It's another consciousness.
Okay. So I drink it. Same thing. Dude, fills my friggin' cup to the top. And I was just like, oh shit. That actually kind of startled me. Because
you're like, again?
Yeah, I was like, again? Because I'm just thinking it's going to be as intense as it was last night.
Right.
It same thing. I'd go through the same thing every time. Feel the DMT buzz. That would reach a point. I would throw up at some point, and then it would start. So I remember when it started, I got through the buzz and the neon pictures, and then I remember saying out loud in my head, okay, I'm ready to see it. And then the voice was as clear as day. Nah, you took care of everything last night. You're good.
Surprise.
Yeah. This is, what do you want to see now? You can see whatever you want. What do you want to see? So I picked the pyramids. I don't know. It's really, the thing is like, unless you experience something like this, it's just it's a psychedelic story, right? But for me, it was real as real gets. And I basically I think I had an out-of-body experience where I traveled back in time, which, as we know, time doesn't exist. So I went back to that space and I watched the pyramids being built. And it was more of, it wasn't built by slaves like somebody tried to tell me. I think the most interesting part about watching the pyramids being built was that they were building it from the top down instead of the bottom up. And the funny thing about that is shortly after returning in 2014, scientists had reported that anomaly, that the stones that were on top were much older than the stones that were on the base, and, I'm sure there's plenty of theories that have nothing to do with the psychedelic experience that explain that. But in my mind, I watched it literally being built from the top down, and they would levitate it and slide bricks under. So
there's a lot of really smart people.
Yeah.
Really, really smart people that do this for a living, corroborate this. Some sort of frequency tools.
Blew my mind when I went, because, I wrote things down. I went back and Googled things. I was like, holy shit, that's true. And the other part of it was they're like, after I saw the pyramids, they're like, what else do you want to see? And I said, I want to see ETs.
Yeah.
So, I flew around the universe, apparently, and I went to other planets and I saw plenty of ETs. Some good, some bad. And when I'd see them, they saw me back. Some were just loving and friendly. I remember I saw one that was just I don't even know how to describe it, but I saw it and I was like, ah! And he was like, no, I'm good. I'm a nice one. And I was just like, you're terrifying looking, but, and that was basically it. And then it just kind of ended and we went back to the room. Okay. So now you go.
Well, so I sat there the entire time feeling like my heart was going to, well, first of all, Don Howard maybe gave me a quarter of a cup of ayahuasca. Yeah. Like I had like 4 swallows. And I remember thinking, is this enough? And he just had this glint in his eyes. Like, no, just drink it. Just drink it. Go sit down, You're
good.
Yep. And so, man, it was like, and you've heard me say this a million times, so I apologize, but it's the best analogy I can think of is the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, and that part where his heart starts to like grow and grow and grow till it's like beating out of his chest.
Yeah.
I, at one point, legit thought that my heart was going to explode. Like I was going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
My heart had so much love in it. It was a ridiculous feeling.
Yeah.
And so much so that it was uncomfortable. I wasn't even wanting to cry. I was legitimately uncomfortable about the amount of love. So he lights the candle. I'm like, this is a great way to end, ayahuasca. I feel like
You're thinking the ceremony's just filling you up with love.
Yep. And I'm,
here you go, cute little one.
Yep.
On your way.
My cute little human brain's like, I'm done.
Yeah, graduated.
Yeah, exactly. And they light the candle and everyone's hugging everybody. And then plain as day, ayahuasca's like, do you want to do this in the Maloka or back in your room? It's like, fuck.
Say again?
What's going to happen? You know? And I'm like, I think I told you, and like, let's go back to our room.
Yeah.
So we go back to our room. We're laying on our bed. We're laying side by side.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at one point you looking at me and going,
on a single bed.
Yeah. Right. Because we're kind of talking about what you had experienced and things. And
yeah.
And my senses started to get really, really amplified. And I remember you saying to me, you got to get away from me. Because,
oh, yeah. Your energy was like bothering me.
Yeah. You're
I could feel it. It was like static. It was like,
You're like, you gotta get away from me.
You gotta quit touching me.
Yep. And I was like, okay. So I go on my own bed. And at this point, I'm miserable. I can smell everything. I could smell you. You smelled gross. I could smell the fruit that was on the table. I could smell, well, I don't know who else I could smell, but basically, I felt like that I had to go poop, or I had to throw up, and so I was back and forth in the bathroom. And ayahuasca was like, can't throw up. Nope, sorry, you can't throw up. You can go poop, but you can't throw up. So, sorry for the TMI here, but that's just what was going on.
Yeah.
And then the jungle noises were so loud. It was so uncomfortable how loud it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so at one point, TMI again, I'm sitting on the toilet and like, I'm just like, I don't understand. What am I supposed to, figure out here? And I put my hands over my ears because I just couldn't stand the noises anymore. And it was like, I'd put a helmet on, like, whoom. And it was like, all of a sudden my discomfort went away.
Yeah. Nausea went away.
I was like, oh my God, I have silicone earplugs because that was on Don Howard's list. And so I giggled all the way back to my bed because I knew exactly what I was going to do. Now, keep in mind, I had no frame of reference for this, but I knew I was going to leave my body. I knew I was going to die. And I was giggling. I was so excited. I'm like, I had no idea this was going to happen. I go rummaging through my stuff. I grab my silicone earplugs. I put it in my ears. I lay back on my bed, giggling as I'm taking my sheet and I'm putting the sheet over the top of me like I'm laying my body to rest. And I thought this was hilarious. And I lay down, I closed my eyes, and I don't know how else to say it other than I had a guide with me. So I have this guide with me that is teaching me how to throat choke and not swallow and to breathe through this wanting to swallow. They were like, for you to leave your body, you can't swallow. The minute you swallow, you're going to come slamming right back down to your body. And I was like, okay. And that's when my heart shifted from a ba-boom, ba-boom to a sound. It frightened me. I took out my earplug. I put my hand again up on my pulse to make sure that my heart was really there. Mm-hmm. And then I wasn't like, which
unbeknownst to you, I was experiencing the exact same thing.
Yeah. And so I put my earplug back in. I breathed into the hummingbird sound. Mm-hmm. And breathed through the throat choke, or breathed through this wanting to swallow.
Yeah. And
I literally just sat right up out of my body. I just shot right out of my body in this like heart brain thing. It was like this illuminating heart. It was like my heart, my brain, and it had like electrical pulses going through it. That's what it looked like to me. And I floated up and I docked on this structure, this big black columnar cigar-shaped structure. Mm-hmm. And my guides were saying nice things, basically, well done, like, we're so proud of you. You've done so much work, welcome. You can go anywhere that you want to, but you don't have to go anywhere. And I immediately didn't want to go anywhere.
Not good. I'll just sit here.
I was sort of terrified, I'll be honest, at that point, even though I felt very loved and in a very loving space and a very safe space. The vastness, the emptiness, the all that was intimidating. Mm-hmm. And I kept on thinking to myself, what's my body doing? So I came back to my body, and they were saying to me as I was getting back into my body, you got to show Joel, basically grab the other pair of silicone earplugs and give them to Joel and tell him to listen for the helicopters. Mm-hmm. Because if I had said, listen to the hummingbirds, you had been like, what? I'm like, listen to the helicopters. So you were writhing in pain in the other bed.
Yep.
Yeah. And I said, put this on. It's like putting a helmet on. And I said, and listen for the helicopters.
Sure should. Yep.
At that point, I was trying to go to sleep and I was just still my senses. And they were like, you need to do it again. You need to practice. I was trying to namaste my way out of it because the amount of energy that it took to leave my body was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, we struck up a bargain. I would do it one more time and then they'd let me sleep. Then I could sleep. So I put the earplugs in for the second time. Sort of laid my body to rest yet again. This time I knew exactly what I needed to do. With the throat choke, I listened to the sound that my heart was making, which was more like another
helicopter.
Hummingbird sound. And I was able to breathe through the urge to swallow, and I lifted right out of my body again. This time I was in a room with Don Howard and a semicircular arrangement of chairs. And we checked in with everybody there at the sanctuary together.
You and Howard?
Me and Howard. It was like one of those weird, situations where it was like I was concerned for everyone, and I guess I just wanted to check in, and I did. Like I was able to kind of feel people out.
Nice.
At that point, I had some concerns about the earth because I had, when I had taken the psilocybins, I'd had a very deep connection that, I'd already had a deep connection with the earth. Been a camper and a fisherman and outdoorsman like my whole life.
Yeah.
And then the psilocybins really kind of strengthened that connection. And so I was really, really concerned about the earth. And so I found myself kind of in space looking at the earth and seeing these golden pods being shuttled to the earth. And we're talking millions upon millions, if not billions and billions of these golden pods.
This image makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Well, and the feeling that I got was Earth's just fine, almost kind of like laughing, like, oh, you cute little egocentric human.
Little earthling.
Earth's going to be fine, friend. It's humans that are at risk,
Yeah.
And at that point, they said some other things to me that I'm not going to share. And then I came back to my body. Yeah. And I fell asleep. Like I don't remember really waking up. I just remember, I remember waking up the next morning.
Yeah.
And first of all, I had no energy. I was like just wasted. I felt super, super, super weak. And I remember leaving our room because I wanted to go to the star deck. And the star deck, I don't think we ever talked about this. You basically follow a path up to the highest point of this property. And there's a circle where they have the Lanzón, which is basically a statue from the Chavin de Huantar civilization. It looks like a jaguar, basically, sort of. It's like I'll have to post a picture of it. But anyways, there's a Lanzón up there. That's where some of the Wachuma ceremonies will take place, or at some point during Wachuma, you're going to be up there. But it gives you a really good bird's eye view of the entire property. You can see the Amazon, you can see the canopy of the jungle. So I made my way up to the star deck, and the most spectacular bird show unfolded. It was like Quaker parakeets and all kinds of different types of birds, blackbirds with red and red birds with orange and yellow and blue and green, and they were flying in just flocks. I mean, basically every exotic bird, that we would see as exotic birds here in North America.
Yeah. And
it was just remarkable. I really had felt like, because I had no idea what astral projection or out-of-body experiences were. Never read about that, never knew anything about that. So at the time, I really felt like I had at the time I really felt like I died. And this was something that I had deeply desired to do, and really had an urge, like I needed to die. And I really did wake up that next morning, feeling.
So what does that mean?
Completely different. To die?
Yeah, because you died, right?
Yeah, I did.
So
I
what
mean,
does that mean to you?
you know, for me, it was a complete reset. It was a hard reset. It was like I got all my updates. I got defragged, and then we had to
Yeah.
reboot. And the reboot was I had to actually get out of my body and come
It's an
back.
awesome visualization.
Yeah.
So I left my body.
Yeah. It was such a great feeling, though.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it's interesting when I talk to people that have visioned, right? And I'll tell people, you know, I left my body. Oh yeah, I visioned that I did that too. Like, I just want to say to him, no, I didn't vision. I traveled. Like, it wasn't pretend. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't, you know, a dream. That is not what I'm talking about. I physically left my body.
Well, I feel the same way too. And to me, the difference between a vision and leaving your body is the vision, you're almost looking at it in third person. Leaving your body, it's like you left your body. You're seeing it in real time with yourself.
Yeah.
At least that's how I felt.
Well, and this is a part where I know we're going to do a podcast. The next podcast is most likely going to be about the aftermath of ayahuasca, what that was like coming home.
Yeah.
The results that we had, the shakeup that happened, you know, the realizations that we happened, how these experiences shifted our life. So just so you know, Joel and I have done a lot of, I've done 12 cups. You've done 8 cups of ayahuasca. We don't plan on going through every single one of our ayahuasca experiences blow by blow. The reason why we wanted to talk about this time, or, you know, these first 4 cups of ayahuasca, probably the most profound for both of us, for sure.
Oh, it had the biggest impact.
Yeah, something we can share. We can share these. The ones that happens, the subsequent cups of ayahuasca are so deeply personal. And quite frankly, I don't think that the experiences nor the results, or not so much the results, but the experiences wouldn't make sense to anybody but us.
Yeah.
They were literally just tailor-made for us.
Yeah.
And also just to hopefully help people understand why it is then we leaned into some of the things that we leaned into, you know, like, why would you ever lean into any new age anything? You know, that's again, like, that's something that we'll talk about next time. But I want to get back to, so the end of my experience basically was, so then I had a random thing happen too. And then I want to talk about like what you experienced when you put in the earplugs. Specifically, don't let me forget, because in the ceremony 4, you said you traveled you went anywhere you wanted to, but that was more like a vision versus actually leaving your body when you put the earplugs in. Anyways, I want to talk more about that because they're different. I mean, the way even you describe, you know, traveling and seeing things kind of in a visionary experience versus, you know, having a physical.
Yeah, it was kind of more like I was taken to a room and I was watching a screen.
Right. The first time?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the second time it was like you literally just left your body.
I know I left my body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some weird things associated with that too. You know, like having my watch plugged into the wall. I had one of those digital watches plugged into the wall. Woke up the next morning, it was dead. Or had half power, like it hadn't been. You know, just weird things. Because like the one thing that happened to me right after you gave me the earplugs, it was like, oh, you sure you want to do this? This is going to take a lot of energy. This was what was being said to me, and I was like, let's do it. I just remember, I could be batshit crazy, but I remember waking up the next morning like, did I draw energy from like the outlet, like from the, because like just everything's racing through your head, like what just happened?
Yeah. Well, it felt for me like I had touched the face of God. That is what I said after the fact. I don't know why I said that, but in the time, that's what I wrote in my journal too. I feel like I had touched the face of God. It was just a very, there's not another word to describe it other than the most spiritual experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And then I did my flower bath, and Don Robert and Donna Eliana gave me the most beautiful necklace
Yeah, that was interesting. Because nobody else got one.
And for some reason, that's really bothered me.
And nobody wanted to talk about it.
I know. And I've never been able to get Howard to tell me why.
Right.
Yeah, maybe because I'm just a wackadoodle. Could be that.
That makes sense because it's a really nice
I know, I still have it.
homemade necklace. Yeah. No, it's just, it was interesting. It was like you did it kind of thing. If that's what it felt like to me. Like
Yeah. I showed up, that's for sure. I put in every ounce of my energy and I did everything that was required. I didn't judge anything. I stayed, like I did everything that I felt like I needed to do. And I really did feel like a completely different person. It was like when I left my body and I came back, it was like you can look at it two ways. Either I picked up a new body or I picked up a new essence that is now inside my body.
Or you just shed off all the stuff that wasn't serving you. Like all the,
Yeah.
whatever.
And when I got home, I started researching it, like what's an OBE, what's astral projection, because they're two very different things. I would say that what happened with me was more OBE, definitely not astrally projecting. That's a whole other crazy realm. I went down that rabbit hole and I'm like, okay, that's too much information.
Well,
anyway.
So continuing on, right before you did it, you were told strongly to tell me to put earplugs in.
Yeah. So
which was good because I was in a lot of pain, very nauseous, and I was about ready to go make myself throw up.
But before the second time, that's what ayahuasca said. Like, give Joel the second pair of silicone earplugs and tell him to listen for the helicopters, which the last thing that I heard you say was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I put him in, the nausea went away, and it was like
putting on a space helmet.
Yeah. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. It's, I don't, I remember the feeling was very intense, whatever. I don't remember all the details.
You know what? It was like, it's like getting into a sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah. It was like in a void. I do remember that I saw something very bright and very warm and very, I don't know. I came away thinking I saw all that is. That I saw the singularity, that I saw the origination point, that I saw a source, that I saw whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. I saw something and it just was like, I get pure love. I tell everybody I came to Peru an atheist and left just knowing there's a higher power, a higher something.
Something greater than us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it was intense. I remember I was exhausted. That, it's hard to sleep in Peru.
Yeah, it really is.
Because it's loud and it starts to get hot. And, I remember that morning I slept in, like barely got my flower bath in.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa. Like that was the greatest ceremony, I remember we had talking circle, which, wasn't fun because some people were projecting their, here I am telling all these cool things and people were like trying to shit on them.
You had someone like
that one guy specifically
was like, fuck the Egyptians, or like,
that was slave labor. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you didn't see what I saw. So fuck off, man. Like, I don't know why you're like, you can't shut up while I'm talking, but
the end of these retreats sometimes are so bizarre. And people are changed. I mean, like the people that you met at the beginning of the retreat aren't the same people anymore. Everyone's different. And again, these plants work in a way where they'll bring up into your awareness whatever it is that you need to see or pay attention to.
Well, the interesting thing for me is I had a physical healing, right?
Right.
So we were talking about my allergies before.
Actually, we didn't get into it.
Well, so I had allergies, severe allergies to poultry specifically.
And shellfish.
But chicken, hands down. Poultry, hands down. If I smell it, I can get hives. I get congested. If I touch it, I get a rash. If it enters my mouth, it's anaphylactic shock. Rush Joel to the hospital.
Like to a point where I could eat chicken and kiss you on the mouth and your lips would swell up.
Yep. And I got to the place where I got really good at slowing down my heart rate so that I had time to get to the hospital and get a shot of adrenaline or whatever it is. Was that what?
Yeah. Epinephrine, I think.
Epinephrine. Yep.
Yeah. And then, Benadryl.
So the interesting thing is after ceremony 4 and the flower bath, we eat breakfast.
Yep.
And I decided to order eggs with the runny yolks.
Which you don't ever do.
Well, I can't. Because for some reason I can eat eggs if the yolk's cooked.
Right.
If the whites are a little runny, which, that's kind of gross anyways, but if the yolk, I'm having an allergic reaction. I don't even know what came over me. I ordered it and didn't even think about it until after.
Mm-hmm.
So...
And you're thinking to yourself, oh, I didn't itch. And you're thinking, oh, maybe it's just the organic eggs.
Right. Yeah, I was just kind of discounting it. So we get home. We, hadn't seen our kids in like 10 days. So we take the kids out to dinner. We decided to go get sushi. We have one kid that at the time didn't eat sushi and wanted to get a noodle dish. So it was chicken and noodles. And I just had this voice in my head that wouldn't shut up. You can eat chicken.
Well, and the wheels started to turn. It was like, you said that, and I said, well, wait a second. Didn't you say that you were molested about 5? Yeah. Well, when did that allergy happen? About 5. And then it was like, you were getting emotional. I was getting emotional. But I was like, no, you can't eat a piece of chicken right here at Sapa's. Like, we're going to have to go home.
Right.
And we're going to do this slow. I'll have the Benadryl, and the EpiPen on,
It was the weirdest thing. So I'm 5, and every time my dad would go for a walk or go jogging, I'd beg to go with because I liked it.
Right.
So we had Thanksgiving dinner. We had family at our house because my sisters were just born. Mm-hmm. They were born like a week before Thanksgiving. And, had turkey because at the time I could eat turkey. And we go running. And my dad had to stop and rush me to the hospital because I had anaphylactic shock. First time ever.
That had been so terrifying.
Yeah. And then it just, from there on out, that was my life, right? And what sucks is when you're a kid and you're going to public school and you're eating public lunch, you're getting ham that's not really ham. You're getting hot dogs that aren't really, they're not all beef, right?
Chicken and turkey.
So it was constantly, so it got to the place where Joel had a special lunch at school. And, it doesn't sound like a big deal to most people, but like, not being able to eat Thanksgiving like the rest of you is a shitty thing because, you're always getting invited over somewhere. You're having people over and you got to tell the same damn story over and over. Dating in high school, people invite you over for dinner. Oh, I can't eat this. I can't eat that. It just sucked.
Yeah, you have to tell people like, I will literally die.
Yeah. So I'm 5 years old. That's my first anaphylactic shock. It was awful. Probably went to the hospital. My brother probably himself drove me to the hospital a dozen times. You drove me to the hospital a few times. I mean, times you'd ask for a pork chimichanga.
Right.
And it came out chicken. And I wouldn't notice till 2-3 bites in because, I was hungry and probably ate too fast. And so 2014, I'm 40 and had a feeling I could eat chicken.
So we brought it home.
Yeah, well, so we brought home the leftovers.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm going to eat that. And you're like, oh, I think you were like trying to get the Benadryl ready. And I'm like, no, I'll take it slow.
Yeah.
And I ate it. And it was amazing. Nothing happened because there were times during the 35 years of being allergic to poultry where I'd be like, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah. I'm going to eat some fried chicken and then just take Benadryl. And you know what? I never even remembered what the chicken tastes like. And I'd usually sleep for 12 to 18 hours.
Poor guy.
I know my mom was always like, please don't do that anymore. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I know. It's not worth it. Because it got to the place where you couldn't even take a bite without my lips swelling to, giant sizes. So, after I ate the leftover dinner, I rushed to this local grocery store, bought their fried chicken.
You're like, what's the best chicken ever? Keep in mind, I can't eat meat. Like I physically can't do it. So I hadn't eaten any pork or beef or chicken. I had been trying to eat some fish. I would eat fish and I couldn't eat eggs anymore. They had a nasty taste to me. I still ate some cheese.
Yeah.
And like mayonnaise.
I hadn't eaten any meat though in a solid 6 months.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of after my.
Other than fish, we'd had fish.
Yeah, other than fish.
Yeah.
So, I went on a chicken shellfish binger for like 2 months.
And it was you ate chicken everywhere.
Every day. I mean, I tried every kind of sandwich you could think of. I was like, I'm trying to fit 35 years into like a few weeks. The funny thing is after I tried everything, then it was like, I don't want to eat meat anymore.
I know it was so.
Got it out of my system.
It was I think it was Thanksgiving. Really, here you ate chicken like literally nonstop. I think you probably did it every day.
Yeah.
And you even told me you went to like Popeyes. I haven't even ever had chicken at Popeyes.
Yeah, no, I went to Popeyes. I went to I can't even. I mean, I
But
did go to KFC. I went to all the grocery stores. I went
all the barbecue places, but you said that hands down the best fried chicken was from our local grocery store.
Hands down, yeah, not
really
even close. So good.
Because it's all about the skin. That's why it was
Just
all about the fried
disgusting to
skin.
think about, but yeah, it was great.
But I think the final thing was I made a turkey, even though I didn't eat it or didn't want to eat it. I made you a turkey for Thanksgiving, and you were so disappointed.
Yeah, turkeys.
To a point you're looking at your mom and sisters and like, this is good, right? Like she knows how to make a turkey.
Yeah.
Like it's not that she
Everybody
just doesn't know how.
They're like, no, this is good turkey. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not missing shit on turkey.
All those years you felt left out, and you're like, hey, you know what? I'd rather have my ham.
Yeah. I mean, it was, it was pretty, I think the idea of being allergic to something to the point where we couldn't eat without it being a topic for 35 years. Not even kidding. That kind of, and this will be for a later podcast, but that really kind of threw everyone that knew me for a loop.
Well, at Thanksgiving that year.
Friends, family.
Yeah, everybody wanted to watch Joel eat turkey.
They're in denial. Yeah.
And they still don't understand it. They don't want to understand it. But basically, anytime you have, people talk about the mind and the body, but we don't ever talk about the physics or the spirit of the body. And when you have traumatic things happen, you have these, injuries that happen to your physics or to your spirit, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And that energy, when things like that happen, it has to go somewhere. It has to express on the body somewhere.
Yeah.
Or it has to express in some way, and usually it expresses through a weakness and then creates a disease, some sort of dis-ease, within the biology, because you've got energy, frequency, and vibration. And when you have trauma, it affects all three of those types of things.
Yeah.
And then ayahuasca has this beautiful power of unwinding that. When you've had true healing like you did, and you were able to purge and rebalance, recalibrate, the energy, the frequency, and the vibration, it brought things back into harmony. And something that should never have been expressed onto the body, which is this crazy allergy, mended itself. And we see people like this all the time. There was a very powerful experience with some friends of ours from Iran. And, this one woman and her sister, I don't want to say names because I would hate to say that and then be upset but anyways, they had MS. Mm-hmm. And this woman's sister specifically had double vision, and she was in a wheelchair. Yeah. And left the sanctuary walking and could go home and drive. No more double vision.
No. And that story, when you talk to Howard, that story was repeated over and over and over with many, many different people. These aren't isolated cases.
Nope.
I think something I forgot to mention, when I left the sanctuary, I didn't want to kill my uncle.
Oh yeah. Well, that was
just kind of at peace.
I think that
went through every emotion.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. And I really want to do just our next podcast about all the ahas and all the results.
Should retouch on these for sure.
Right. Because that was something I was I was just blown away by.
Yeah.
You learned, if you really think about it, in a 2-week period, so in 14 days, you learned some pretty tragic things. You had been molested when you were a child by your uncle. Your mom knew about it. And then there proceeded to be a 40-year cover-up or 35-year cover-up.
Yeah.
Thinking that I guess maybe they could get you some help without really relaying the actual trauma that had happened. They would just make up a trauma thinking that it didn't matter.
That would still help or something.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Then you have this allergy. I mean, you've had anger issues, like all these things that you've suffered from for like 40 years. And then in a 14-day period, you learn about this, you deal with this, and you came home, you told your parents, which that should totally be on our next podcast about how you did that, because I thought it was so funny and kind of clever. And then you sent a letter to your uncle. Mm-hmm. You let him know that you knew.
Yep.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
You really didn't
never given it a second.
It.
I've never given it a second thought. I went through that whole that plant medicine cliche that comes up all the time. It was like 25 years of therapy in one dose. For real.
Yeah. Really
For real. Because I can tell you the anger and just wanting to hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. but then, then you go through the process of understanding somebody injured them and it's already happened and
it's the
I'm safe now and I
the,
can forgive him and his life's, I'm sure, not shits and giggles and,
But it was the revelation, I think, of just knowing, like you would tell me, yeah, there are certain smells that would trigger you. Like you
lights.
hated, and lights.
Colors, yeah.
That would trigger you. And then you would just get angry and it would make you angry that you just didn't know.
Yeah.
It was almost like the satisfaction of knowing kind of overrided this desire to hurt him, because at some point you were like, I'm just fucking glad that I know.
It's so fascinating too that, as far as I know, I got molested once or one time or during one period of time. I don't know. But 5 years old, that literally left a mark on me for 35 years.
Right.
In several different ways.
Well, between that and being kind of neglected because you were the oldest and a boy, and I think being molested, caused my behavioral issues, which caused other things. I'm not saying my dad wasn't an asshole before, because he was. Right.
That's just how he parented, right? So, but I think it made it worse.
Well, yeah.
When I remember when my parents were mad because I was still wetting the bed. Well, I was wetting the bed because
right. Dun, 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 dun.
got molested. It's funny because we're parents, and it's like we're way sensitive. So anytime our kids display anything that's like normal, not normal, we're like, start asking the questions. My parents, again, taught parenting classes, and I was just the troubled kid. And, it makes me mad when I think about it, because I think had things actually been out in the open from the beginning, I wouldn't have gone through 90% of the shit I went through.
I agree. But it was more important for her to protect her brother.
Yeah. Well, and I'm grateful now in hindsight for the experience, because there's nothing better than figuring it out for yourself, healing yourself. It's real healing. You can really move on. You can really become a better person,
And I think on that note, we should end it, because I think that the next podcast, we could talk a lot about the integration and how grateful we are for, both our past pain and trauma and experiences, and how they've led us to be the people that we are, and, how much they've taught us and the subsequent healing.
Cool. Well, thanks for sticking with us this long, because this was a long podcast.
Yeah.
But hopefully people enjoy it.
Yep. I hope everybody has a wonderful, fabulous day. Thanks for listening.
Till next time.